Chapter 1108. Evely, it's you? Max suddenly realized that Evely had come with Qin Zhao. He knew that Evely was the spokesperson of Citibank. She had signed a 3-year contract with $80 million. However, he didn't expect Evely to come to the party. What was even more unexpected was that Qin Zhao was Evely's boyfriend. Li Qiong was also very shocked. Of course she knew Evely. Almost everyone in the world who didn't know Evely was dead. There was probably no one who didn't know Evely. Hello? Evely replied indifferently. Is Evely your girlfriend? Li Qiong asked curiously. Evely held Chen Zhao's arm. Chen Zhao shook his head. No, she's my student. Li Qiong really didn't expect the world-famous swimming legend to be Chen Zhao's student. Chen, let's go in. Li Qiong, we'll go in first. Oh, okay. Bye. Looking at Chen Zhao and Evely's backs, Li Qiong was a bit disappointed. Your classmate has such a powerful background, Max murmured. He probably only came to this party because of Evely, Li Qiong said, a bit upset. But it's enough to have a student like her, Max said enviously. Who was Evely? She was a legend in the world of sports. With such a student, it meant that fame and fortune would be in his hands. Qualifications were important everywhere. You could go to any company for an interview. In addition to having a good education background, it was also very important to have work experience. If you could record that a famous person was your student in your resume, the value of the resume would increase greatly. No company could ignore the celebrity effect of a resume. It's so big, Li Qiong exclaimed. The place was really bigger than she'd imagined. Therefore, if one didn't have enough imagination, it was impossible to imagine what kind of life the rich lived. Do you see that woman over there? Max pointed at a beautiful woman surrounded by a group of women in the distance. Yes. What's wrong with her? Li Qiong didn't know the woman, but she recognized the earrings on her ear. The earrings came from a limited edition Chanel handbag, and that limited edition handbag was worth $750,000. Li Qiong did not have that much money, but like most women, she advocated and pursued luxury goods. Therefore, he liked to read those fashion magazines. Go and meet her. She's the owner of this place, Amira. Li Qiong gasped. That woman was about the same age as her, but she was the owner of the manor. She's the daughter of the major shareholder of Citibank's board of directors, and the only heir of the billionaire Dap. This kind of party was a place for the upper class to socialize and network. Therefore, the people here would do everything possible to get to know some upper-class people and expand their connections. Li Qiong took a deep breath, picked up a glass of wine from the servant, and was about to walk towards Amira. But at that moment, Amelia headed in another direction. Li Qiong also turned around and followed them. Just then, Li Qiong realized that Amira was walking toward Chen Zhao and Evely. She was probably going after Evely. This was good, Li Qiong thought. She could get close to Chen Zhao first, and then wait for Amira to come over herself. Chen Zhao. Li Qiong walked toward Chen Zhao and Evely. Li Qiong, you're developing with Mr. Max pretty fast, Chen Zhao said, smiling. We're not deep, Li Qiong explained. I'm only his temporary companion today. Chen, aren't you going to introduce this lady to me? Evely asked. My high school classmate, Qiong. Li, hello, Ms. Evely. Hello, Ms. Evely. Just then, Amira walked over. Hi, Mr. Chen. Amira was dressed rather dignified and sexy today. Her dress was also made of sparkling pink scales. She looked rather noble and elegant. Hi, Amira. Are you here for the party too? Mr. Chen, I'm the owner of this party. Amira rubbed her forehead. This is your house? Chen Zhao asked, surprised. I don't know at all. Li Qiong realized that Chen Zhao actually knew everyone. He also seemed to be very close to Amira. The two chatted casually as if they were friends. Last time, I asked Andrews to send you a message to invite you to the party, but you didn't reply at all. Now you're here yourself. Amira complained. Ms. Amira, don't blame Chen, Evely said. He's here as my shield today. Oh, Mr. Chen, do you know Ms. Evely? She's my student. I didn't expect us to be so fated, Amira said, smiling. Qin Zhao thought to himself, what kind of fate is this? Oh, the shoreline you bought from me last time seems to be under construction. I wanted to introduce you to an engineering company. Chen, you bought a shoreline? Can I swim on your beach in the future? Sure, as long as you're not afraid of the sharks in the water, Qin Zhao said. Li Qiong was a bit dazed. Her high school classmate's wealth was far greater than she'd imagined. He actually bought the entire shoreline. Mr. Qin, have you considered selling your Mirror Lake mansion? I want to buy it, Amira said. Sorry, no. I still want to live there. But you're going to move there after the mansion is built, right? I plan to switch places. I'll live by the beach in summer and autumn, and at Mirror Lake in spring and winter. Li Qiong was a bit dazed. Just how rich was her high school classmate? When she'd first met him, he seemed to be driving that truck. At the time, Li Qiong had thought that Qin Zhao was just an ordinary teacher. But every time she saw him, she seemed to have a new understanding of him. What a pity. It's such a good place. Amira was a bit disappointed. She'd been to Qin Dao's Mirror Lake mansion before. She really liked the place. She'd searched all over Los Angeles but really couldn't find such a good place. There were mountains, rivers, and lakes. The scenery was amazing and the air was fresh. The temperature was also more stable and pleasant than in Los Angeles. She thought that Qin Zhao would move after the mansion was built. Chapter 1109. Suddenly, Li Qiong was a little jealous. She had lived in this country for more than a decade, but she couldn't compare to Qin Zhao at all. Qin Zhao had only been here for a year or so. In the past, Li Qiong felt quite good about herself. She had never been anxious about not finding a job. She felt that she had enough capital to slowly search for it. In any case, if he were to pick and choose, he would definitely find a satisfactory job. But now, she felt a sense of oppression. He didn't even have a job now. However, this once unremarkable high school classmate had already surpassed him in all aspects. She was unable to adapt to such a huge difference. Qin Zhao and Amira chatted happily, but Li Qiong felt out of place. Just then, Andrews walked over and greeted them. Miss Amira, Mr. Chen, Miss Evely. Andrews basically knew all the money in and out of Qin Zhao's bank account. While he was amazed at Qin Zhao's ability to spend money, he was also amazed at Qin Zhao's ability to earn money. Especially in the past few days, tens of millions of USD had entered the account. Of course, Qin Zhao's spending power was also quite strong. Andrews even felt his heart ache. Qin Zhao hadn't used his credit card yet. If Qin Zhao used a credit card, his spending limit would definitely be a black card. Moreover, as Andrews' client, he could take a large portion of Qin Zhao's commission. Unfortunately, he had too much money. He didn't need credit cards at all. This also made Andrews feel very stifled. But Qin Zhao was rich. What could he say? After all, even billion-dollar companies might not have more cash than Qin Zhao. With Qin Zhao's wealth, it would be easy for him to borrow a few $100 million from the bank. But Qin Zhao didn't need it at all. He used as much money as he had. He didn't like to borrow money from the bank. His consumption concept was similar to that of his countrymen. This was also what made Andrews most depressed. If he could think of a way to get Qin Zhao to borrow a few $100 million, Andrews would probably wake up laughing even in his dreams. At Qin Zhao's level of wealth, he had many high-quality assets under his name. They were all easily converted into cash. They are very welcome customers of the bank. Even if the customer did not want to borrow money, the bank would find ways to make the customer borrow money. In short, a customer who doesn't lend money isn't a good customer. Only customers who owed the bank money were the most welcome customers of the bank. Mr. Qin, Andrews asked, SU's yacht manufacturer is holding an exhibition in LA. Are you interested in going? I already have a yacht at home, Qin Zhao said. I usually leave it at my house and don't really use it. Li Qiong was standing next to them. She felt that if she continued to listen to their conversation, she would only feel more depressed. She even wondered if she should think of a way to poach Chen Zhao over. This kind of man who had the looks, the family background, and the education background could not be found even with a lantern. If Chen Zhao could become her man, she wouldn't have to struggle anymore. Or she could let Chen Zhao pay for her company. By the way, Mr. Chen, I know a company that develops smart management systems. They're currently promoting a brand new smart butler system. Do you need it? How much is it? About $10 million. How much is the actual price? I can say around $8 million, Andrews said. That's still too expensive. The butler system I'm using now is only a few $100,000. It has all the basic functions. Does the company's butler system have any extra functions? The functionality of this system is definitely better than a system that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. It is also connected to 2 satellites, including a weather satellite and a surveillance satellite. It can automatically identify the identity of anyone who enters the manor. If an unknown person approaches, it will alert the owner directly. If it is a wanted criminal or dangerous person, it will call the police directly, Andrews said. This system can greatly increase the safety of the family. Then what if I have a friend who can't see the light of day and he comes to my house as a guest? The system will call the police too? Ha! Andrews obviously knew what Chen Zhao meant. As long as the owner approves, the system won't call the police randomly. Then the surveillance satellite will continuously take pictures of my home and territory? Yes. Then how can my privacy be guaranteed? Only you can download and view all the pictures taken by the surveillance satellite. Even the developer of the system can't see them. This company advocates an efficient and high-quality customer experience. Every customer has a security lock. Without the password, even the company and the owner of the satellite can't see the content. What's this security lock? Chen Zhao asked, confused. This? Only the experts in this field can answer. It's a high-grade ASL security protocol. On the side, Li Qiong finally heard a topic that she could join in on. This ASL security protocol is an agreement between humans and computers. The computer program is already loaded with the ASL security protocol, so no third party can bypass the computer and open the private content. Only the security lock of the security protocol can open it. It's not the first choice for mainstream AI housekeeping systems right now because it's too strict. If there's an accident, even the police can't access the content. Plus, it's expensive, so most AI housekeeping systems use the common UB security protocol. This security lock is worth over $3 million. The security lock that Mr. Andrews mentioned should be the ASL security protocol. Chen Zhao didn't understand Li Qiong's professional terms, but he got the general idea. So, other than me, no one can see my privacy? Yes. Li Qiong nodded. Chen Zhao, if your new house is big enough, a normal AI housekeeper won't be able to handle it, so you have to choose a new AI housekeeper. This is the trend of the new era. You know a lot about this? Chen Zhao was a bit surprised. In his impression, Li Qiong had always been a pretty woman. He didn't think that she would be so knowledgeable when it came to computers. That's what I learned in university. Will the operation of this AI housekeeper be complicated? Chapter 11:10. Is it complicated to install and debug the system? Chen Zhao asked. The company is responsible for installing the system, but the customer has to find someone from another company for debugging and inspection. Why? That's too inconsiderate. That company installed and debugged the system last time. This company wants to ensure that their engineers don't install backdoors, and also to ensure the privacy of their customers. That's why they completely exclude themselves when it comes to debugging, Andrews said. Chen Zhao, if you need it, Li Qiong said. I can take this job. How much do you charge? Chen Zhao asked. Li Qiong was about to say no, but Andrews said, usually, the debugging fee is around 5% of the system's value. Sure. Chen Zhao and Li Qiong weren't familiar with each other. If Li Qiong wanted to debug for him for free, he would feel awkward. But if she had to pay, he would feel better. Andrews, reserve a system for me. You can help me negotiate the price. After hearing that the trial fee was so high, it was difficult for Li Qiong to say no to the reward. According to Andrews, the system was worth $10 million. Even if the final price was $1 or $2 million less, it would still be a few $100,000. To Li Qiong, a few $100,000 was an astronomical figure. It was almost impossible for her to find a job with an annual salary of $100,000. But if she could complete the debugging, she could earn a few $100,000. How many $100,000 could a person earn in their lifetime? But the construction of the house has just started. It'll be at least a few months later. I'll contact you after it's done. Okay. Li Qiong nodded. To be honest, it was an eye-opener for her today. In the past, she'd only seen multimillion-dollar deals in movies and TV shows. But in reality, Chen Zhao only needed to think about it for a while before deciding to buy it. Chen, I feel like I'm the one who gave you this butler system, Evely said teasingly. I only paid you 10 million. That doesn't count. I took 10 days. Plus, I think you'll earn more. Li Qiong already had a certain understanding of Chen Zhao's wealth. But when she heard that Chen Zhao had earned 10 million in 10 days, she still found it unbelievable. He probably wouldn't be able to earn that much money in his entire life, but Chen Zhao seemed to be able to earn it easily. It was truly infuriating to compare oneself to others. Andrews had the same idea. He had worked so hard to negotiate and help Chen Zhao lower the price. Then, he would take a cut, but it wasn't even 10 days of Chen Zhao's income. Mr. Chen, are you interested in buying an island now? Amira asked. I don't even have $20 million in my bank account. I can't afford it. If you want, I can transfer a loan under $1 billion to your account as long as you say it. $1 billion? I'd be crazy to buy it. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. Actually, you can choose from cheap islands that only cost a few million USD or even a few $100,000. Of course, there are also expensive ones that cost tens of millions or hundreds of millions of USD. If I want to buy, I will buy the best. When I have a few $100 million USD, I will buy an island. An island that is worth a few million USD is not even 2 square kilometers. If I build a house on such an island, I will occupy the entire land. Oh, Mr. Chen, Amira said. I have a business that I need your help with. Are you interested? What's it about? Chen Zhao could hear that Amira's tone was a bit repressed. He couldn't help but look up at her. Guys, can you give Mr. Chen and me some private space? The people around her left tactfully. Li Qiong glanced at them a few more times. She was curious about what business Amira wanted to discuss with Chen Zhao. To her, it was most likely a huge deal. There was no one else around, but Amira still lowered his voice and said, My father bought a piece of land in Abilene, Kansas. It's going to be used to build a factory, but the construction stopped because of an accident. What accident? A hole was dug in the construction site, and on the first night, 4 workers mysteriously disappeared. Other workers said that a monster came out of the hole and dragged the workers into the hole. Then, 2 similar incidents happened. What kind of monster? Are there any pictures? No, but according to the 2 workers, the monster looked like a dog, but it was really big. It was 6 to 7 meters long. Amira said seriously. Amira said solemnly. So far, 6 workers have gone missing, and my father has paid at least $20 million as compensation. Then there must be a local search team, right? Didn't they enter the hole to search? A search and rescue team of 8 people went into the cave, but they never came out. Chen Zhao narrowed his eyes. So you want me to help you solve this problem? Not me, Amira said. It's my father. What about the payment? I can pay you 10 million in advance. If you can solve the problem, I'll pay you another 20 million. Chen Zhao had to admit that he was tempted. Just as Chen Zhao was hesitating, Amira said, It's after-tax income. Amira thought that Qin Zhao was worried about taxes. After all, such income had to be taxed at 45%. Qin Zhao thought about it and nodded. Is it urgent? Currently, my father's land project has stopped. He loses millions of dollars every day. He's worried too. Okay, I accept, Qin Zhao said. When do we leave? It's best if we can leave in 1 or 2 days. Sure, Qin Zhao said. I'll arrange it and leave the day after tomorrow. Okay, it's settled. Also, do you need me to prepare anything? Don't let anyone else near the construction site. I don't like people disturbing me when I'm working. Of course, I'll tell my father. This was actually Amira's personal decision. She felt that Qin Zhao was the person who could solve this problem. She still needed to talk to her father. Oh, I'll go with you. If you want to go into the hole with me, then forget it. I don't want to protect you in an unknown situation. Chapter 11:11. Amelia cherished her own life very much. She hadn't enjoyed her life enough yet. Was she going to risk her life with Qin Zhao? Qin Zhao was earning money from risking his life. Of course, the fees were high. However, it wasn't easy to find a big client like Amira. Qin Zhao couldn't meet one every day. Qin Zhao hoped that these rich people would run into big trouble every day. Only then would he be able to use his skills. Li Qiong had been observing Qin Zhao and Amira. Although he didn't know the specific content of their conversation, he could tell that the outcome of their conversation should be satisfactory to both sides. Mr. Qin, are you staying for dinner? I have a show here tonight. Qin Zhao rolled his eyes. I can't watch shows. I'll be happier if you arrange a striptease show for me. Amira was helpless. She'd rather help Qin Zhao buy a striptease bar than have a striptease show in her own manner. In the evening, Evely left with Qin Zhao. Evely, I have something on the day after tomorrow. I'll have to stop training for 2 days. Okay, as long as you make up for the time. After sending Evely to her house, Qin Zhao went to a car shop. Car shops in America usually had a larger space. There were more than 100 cars in the parking lot. These cars were all very cheap. Some could be bought for $2,000 or $3,000. The frequency of Americans changing cars was relatively high. Some people would sell a car to a car shop after driving it for a period of time, and then get a new car. Of course, new cars were also sold here. But relatively speaking, it was more worthwhile to buy a used car than a new one. Car shops like this usually had a track where customers could test their cars. Qin Zhao entered the car shop. The showroom was filled with new cars. Only new cars would be displayed here. An old man walked over slowly. Hi, how can I help you? Are the cars here the ones in your shop? What model and brand do you want? The old man asked. Porsche 911. Because the Porsche 911 was a classic model, many car shops had it. There's a used car outside. Do you want it? It's only $50,000. Qin Zhao shook his head. After all, it was for Fei Lai. He still wanted to buy a new car. Moreover, Qin Zhao wanted to buy a top-end Porsche 911 that cost $50,000. It was either an old model or had a range of more than 100,000 kilometers. If you want a new car, you can pay a deposit first, and I can order it for you. Qin Zhao refused. It was troublesome to order cars from American car shops. Some shops would even cheat Chinese people by delaying the purchase of a car for a few months. Some even bought an old, refurbished car. Qin Zhao didn't want to be a fool, so he rejected the old man and left. Qin Zhao used the navigation to search for a Porsche store. Compared to the previous car dealership, this Porsche store was much more professional. However, this was to be expected. After all, the customer base was different. The salesperson was a very beautiful woman. She reminded Qin Zhao of Paris. Sir, how can I help you? Do you have a Porsche 911? The latest model? Qin Zhao asked. Of course, this way please. The saleswoman led him through the showroom for a while and stopped before a dark blue metallic sports car. When Qin Zhao saw the car, he immediately remembered it. It was the same color. The deep yet elegant color, and the gentle lines of the car were very much in line with Qin Zhao's ideal car model. Is it convertible or hardtop? Qin Zhao asked. Convertible. The beautiful saleswoman began to talk about the car's performance and various hardware components in an endless stream. Qin Zhao kept nodding. After all, he'd been driving for a year. He could basically understand the gist of it. The saleswoman emphasized the differences between the car and the old model. Of course, it wasn't just the functions. The price was also different. As the saleswoman introduced the car, she studied Qin Zhao's expression. What's the top-end price? Qin Zhao asked. About $850,000. You have to choose the specific interior. If I want you to send it to my home, will you help me? Sir, do you want us to send it to China? No, my home is in Los Angeles, Qin Zhao said. But this car is for my girlfriend, Qin Zhao said. I hope you can wrap it in a huge gift box and send it to my house. I hope my girlfriend can open it herself. The saleswoman stared at Qin Zhao with stars in her eyes. Qin Zhao turned his head and looked at the metallic gray car beside him. What model is this? This is a Porsche 918. The lowest price is $1. $53 million and the top end is $1. $75 million. Do you have this car in any other color? Silver gray, deep red, sapphire blue, metallic blue. The saleswoman listed more than 10 colors in a row. This car was almost twice as expensive as the previous Porsche 911. However, it was rare for Qin Zhao to like a car. I want this car too. Huh. Then what about the Porsche 911? I want it too, Qin Zhao said. But I want the black one. We don't have it in our store, but we can get it from other stores. Okay. Send 2 cars to this address tomorrow at noon. No problem, sir. Joy was written all over the saleswoman's face. Selling 2 cars at once was equivalent to half a year of her income. Sir, how do you want to pay? Card cash, Qin Zhao said. Do you have a bank in mind? I don't need a loan. Full payment. The beautiful salesperson almost choked on her breath. $2 million and he paid in full? Where did this rich guy come from? When Qin Zhao came out, there was a phone number in his pocket. The saleswoman stood at the door and waved her hand vigorously. My Prince Charming, you must remember to call me. When Qin Zhao's card disappeared from her sight, the saleswoman gritted her teeth and muttered to herself. I wonder which bitch beat me to it. When Qin Zhao returned home, it was already past 7 at night. Fei Lai, you haven't eaten yet? Waiting for you, Fei Lai said. You have a baby in your stomach. Don't starve yourself. I'm not hungry. Qin Zhao had the underlings prepare dinner. At the same time, he said to Fei Lai, do you want to go to Abilene the day after tomorrow? Chapter 11-12. I have work there, Qin Zhao said. I also feel like I've been going out a lot lately, so if you want, we can go play there for a few days. Fei Lai understood what Qin Zhao was thinking. Qin Zhao felt that it would be inconvenient for her to go anywhere since she was pregnant. She also felt uncomfortable going out too often. Darling, we should be more honest with each other. I don't think it's a big deal. Okay. Qin Zhao stroked Fei Lai's hair. That was indeed what he was thinking. That was why he invited Fei Lai to Abilene. What work is there this time? A billionaire bought a piece of land and caused some accidents. I'm going to solve the problem. Then his price shouldn't be low, right? Very high, Qin Zhao said. Remember to bring me a present. Of course. The next day Fei Lai was soaking in the water. After entering February, the temperature had risen a few degrees. The temperature of Mirror Lake was just right, so Fei Lai had been soaking every day. Little Jerlin was just half a year old. She could already jump onto the round rock in the middle of the lake. Just then, Fei Lai saw a large truck arrive at the door. Fei Lai called out to the villa, but there was no response. Fei Lai saw the transport workers unloading 2 large boxes from the truck. Fei Lai carried Jerlin to the shore and draped a towel over her. "Hello, what's the delivery?" Fei Lai asked one of the workers. "Hello, you must be Miss Fei Lai." A woman walked up. She looked Fei Lai up and down. The first thing she saw was Fei Lai's bulging stomach. He felt indignant in his heart, but he still maintained a professional smile on his face. "These are the things that Mr. Chen bought in our shop yesterday. Please sign here." "Oh." Fei Lai signed the shipping receipt. "Miss Fei Lai, you have to open it yourself." "How do I open it?" Fei Lai looked at the huge box in front of her, feeling helpless. "Just unlatch the lock on this side." Fei Lai unlocked the lock, and the lid of the box opened up like flower petals. A new metallic dark blue Porsche 911 was revealed inside. Fei Lai took a deep breath. She was amazed. That was Fei Lai's first thought. Just then, Qin Zhao walked out of the house. "Fei Lai, we've been together for a year now. This time last year, I gave you a car. This year I'll give you another one. Do you like it?" Fei Lai jumped into his arms and kissed him deeply. The accompanying saleswoman had a look of jealousy on her face as she cursed the vixen in her heart. However, when she looked at the villa in front of her, why wasn't this man hers? Gifting a car for a year was really extravagant. "Chen, I really like it." Fei Lai liked it very much. She couldn't wait to sit in the car and try it out. However, her gaze fell on the other box. "Where's the other box?" "I bought it for myself," Qin Zhao said. "Of course, if you like that one, you can drive it." Fei Lai went forward to open the box. She was also amazed by what she saw. These two Porsche sports cars were classic models. Fei Lai wouldn't be surprised if Qin Zhao bought a car. She was surprised that Qin Zhao would buy a sports car. She knew Qin Zhao's habits. He didn't like to drive sports cars. "Chen, I thought you didn't like sports cars? I think these two cars are a better match." The saleswoman's face was full of envy. It was so good to have a rich man. "Miss, thank you." After tipping everyone, Qin Zhao ignored the saleswoman's little tricks and sent them all away. "Fei Lai, don't you want to try it?" Jerlin ran out too and pounced on the front of the car. "Car, beautiful. Jerlin wants it too." "Papa, Jerlin wants it too." Qin Zhao was stunned. Fei Lai said, "The supermarket in town has those small toy cars. You can buy one for Jerlin." Actually, Fei Lai wanted to drive out, so Qin Zhao let her. After the family changed their clothes, they went out to go shopping. At the entrance of the supermarket, Qin Zhao saw someone familiar. "Hi, Chen." Dean Sloat walked over with his daughter, Azina. "Such a beautiful car." Azina looked at the car parked by the road, her eyes shining. "Azina, you haven't come to Mirror Lake in a long time." "Azina is in high school this year. She lives at school now and only comes back once a month," Dean Sloat said. He glanced at Jerlin in Fei Lai's arms. "Your daughter has grown a lot. Last time I saw her, she was still a little girl." "Ha! Kids grow really fast at this age. You should have the most experience." Dean Sloat smiled and did not reply. When Azina was Jerlin's age, he wasn't around. Her mother took care of her. "Chen, do you have time? Let's talk." "Sure." Qin Zhao turned to Fei Lai. "Fei Lai, go in and help Jerlin choose a car. I'll sit here with Mr. Sloat." "Sure." "Azina, do you want to go in? I'll treat you to ice cream." "I'm not a kid." Azina rolled her eyes. "I want strawberry." Qin Zhao and Dean Sloat sat on a bench outside the supermarket. "Mr. Sloat, how have you been?" "Chen, I plan to run for mayor again. I hope you can support me." Suddenly, Dean put on a serious expression and looked at Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao did not expect Dian to talk to him about this. Logically speaking, Qin Zhao should support Dian Sloat. After all, Dean's help was undeniable for Qin Zhao to settle down in Mirror Lake. However, Dian Sloat did not have a good reputation in town. Many people said that Dian Sloat had abused his power for personal gain when he was the mayor, selling out the town's interests in exchange for bribes. Therefore, Qin Zhao felt that even with his support, it would be very difficult for Dion Sloat to become mayor again. However, it was an undeniable fact that Chen Zhao owed him a favor. Mr. Sloat, if you want to run for mayor, I'll definitely support you, but are you sure there's someone else who's willing to vote for you other than me? A fat doesn't know how to manage Mountain Town at all, Dean Sloat said. Look at how he's managed the town in the 6 months he's been in office. A fate was the new mayor of Mountain Town. Chen Zhao had seen the new mayor once. Many people in the town can't find a job now, and a fate once promised that if he became the mayor, he would reopen the brewery to provide more jobs for the residents of Mountain Town, but he broke his promise. He borrowed $200 million from the bank in the town's name, wanting to start farming, but he completely ignored the fact that the town's land isn't suitable for growing crops. Now, he has lost almost all of the $200 million. Chapter 11:13. Chen Zhao did notice that the town wasn't doing too well recently. The unemployment rate was as high as 20%. It was a terrifying number. In the past, many people relied on the brewery to work and live. Plus, the one-stop sales and transportation took up a lot of jobs. Ever since the brewery had caught fire, there had been a lot of calls to rebuild it. Back then, the new mayor, a fate, had proposed to rebuild the brewery. That was how he obtained the support of the townspeople and defeated his competitors. But after a fate took office, he didn't keep his promise. He actually wanted to do agriculture and borrowed a huge loan from the bank. A total of $200 million. How much was $200 million? The value of agriculture in Los Angeles was around this amount. But a fate actually used $200 million on agriculture in Mountain Town. Of course, he also knew that the land in Mountain Town wasn't suitable for growing crops. The salinity of the land was too high. Therefore, a large portion of the $200 million was used to treat the land. But reality proved that a fate was too naive. The salinity of the land in Mountain Town was much higher than he'd expected. He'd invested a large amount of money to treat the land. Then, the crops would all die after a few days. After retesting, he found that the deep soil had high salinity too. To completely treat it, he didn't need $200 million, but $2 billion. $200 million was enough to treat a few hundred acres of land. How many crops could he grow? It would probably take a few hundred years to pay off the loan with a few hundred acres of land. In the end, he angered the bank. Then, a large amount of the town's land was forcefully expropriated by the bank. Now, half of the land in Mountain Town was in the bank's hands. Under normal circumstances, it wouldn't matter to the townspeople whose hands the land was in. But if it was in the bank's hands, it would be a serious problem. The bank could sell it to whoever it wanted. If it was Chen Zhao who bought the land to build a house or treat it as his backyard, it would be fine. But if it was sold to a chemical factory, the townspeople would probably want to die. The bank didn't care if the townspeople objected or not. To them, they would sell to whoever offered the highest price. In America, it was difficult to get approval from the local government for the construction of chemical factories. Therefore, many chemical factories were built in remote areas. But now, the town government still owed a large amount of money. If they wanted to object, they had to consider the bank's attitude. But this had nothing to do with Chen Zhao. He didn't rely on anyone in town to earn money anyway. Plus, Chen Zhao had a green card, so he had no right to object to the new mayor. Anyway, the new mayor was chosen by them. A sin committed by heaven could be forgiven, but a sin committed by oneself could not be avoided. The new mayor, who had high standards but low abilities, indeed had no management skills. His campaign slogan was louder than anyone else's: eliminate unemployment. As a result, after he took office, the unemployment rate broke historical records. Occasionally, Chen Zhao would pass by the entrance of the town government. He could see people blocking the office building and protesting, asking a fate to step down. Chen Zhao was considered half an outsider here. He didn't even have the right to vote. Other than supporting Dion Sloat verbally, he couldn't influence the town's voting. I've already arranged for people to spread the news in the town. Why don't you let me come back and continue being the mayor? Dion Sloat said. Chen Zhao glanced at Dion. He was indeed an old fox. This method was many times more advanced than that of the new mayor. In the past, Dion Sloat did not have a good reputation. But he had indeed done a lot of practical things. Putting aside Dion Sloat's moral character, at least his ability was there for all to see. Chen, what if I say that I hope you can invest in a beer factory? What would you think? Dion Sloat asked in a testing manner. Qin Zhao really did not expect Dion to make such a request. After all, Qin Zhao had no concept of operating a brewery. He didn't know how to manage it either. Qin, in the past, when the brewery was still here, its sales were always good in the LA area. It made millions of dollars every year and the sales were stable. Plus, the sales didn't disappear. I still have the contact information of the distributors, so it's easier to open up a market than a new brand. Mr. Sloat, I really don't plan on doing this. Chen Zhao had always kept his distance from businesses he was unfamiliar with. Because he was unfamiliar with them, he was worried about losing money. Also, managing a company was very complicated. Chen Zhao did not want to tie himself down because of this. Chen, if you're afraid that you don't know how to manage it, you can leave it to a professional manager. Plus, your old friend Bant is an old employee of the brewery. He's passed down the taste of wheat beer. Because of this skill, he's always been the brewery's unobtainable taster. How much do I need to invest to rebuild the brewery? Chen Zhao asked. At least $5 million. Chen Zhao could afford $5 million. But this was an investment, not a game. Especially when it was a business that he was unfamiliar with. I can't answer your question right now. I need to think about it. Okay, I'll wait for your good news. Chen Zhao had a rough idea of Dion Sloat's plan. He wanted to rely on his own investment to build a brewery, and then gain a wave of popularity and rise back to the top. But this also meant that Chen Zhao's interests in Mountain Town were tied to Sloat's. Chen Zhao did not know if Sloat had suddenly thought of this or if he had planned it for a long time. But if the conditions were right, Chen Zhao would rather work with Sloat than an idiot like a Fate. Sloat knew that he should stop here, so he did not continue pestering Chen Zhao. After Fei Lai and Azina came out of the supermarket, he left. Fei Lai, let's go to Bant's house for lunch. Sure. Chen Zhao took out his phone. Bant, are you home? I'm here. Chen, why? Do you want to come? Fei Lai and I are too lazy to cook, so we plan to go to your house for lunch. You won't reject us, right? Come quickly. I've been home alone for 2 weeks. Mary and Ken are both busy and don't have time to come back. I eat alone every day. It's great that you guys can come and eat with me. Bant was very welcoming of Chen Zhao's family. We came empty-handed this time. We didn't bring any gifts. I hope you guys don't bring anything. You always bring gifts. I have to prepare gifts every time I go. It's so troublesome. Bant was very straightforward and said whatever he wanted. Chapter 11-14. When Qin Zhao and Fei Lai arrived at Bant's house, they realized that Bant had even brought out the oven. He even brought the wheat beer he brewed himself. Since Fei Lai couldn't drink, she drove. Qin Zhao didn't have to care and started drinking with Bant. Bant, Qin Zhao said. Dean Sloat asked me to invest in rebuilding the brewery. Fei Lai heard Qin Zhao's words, but she didn't interrupt, as if it had nothing to do with her. Anyway, Qin Zhao would talk to her again when he got home. Bant, who'd been quite talkative, suddenly fell silent. He finished the beer in his glass in one gulp. After a while, he asked, Did you agree? I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with the brewery's profits, but I also want to hear your suggestion. Bant was definitely more familiar with the brewery than Chen Zhao, so Chen Zhao's first thought was to ask him. If it was from Bant's personal opinion, he was definitely willing to rebuild the brewery. After all, he'd been a bartender at the brewery and had his family skills. But Chen Zhao was his best friend, so he still had to tell him some things. Chen, rebuilding the brewery is a good thing, but you can't hire all the employees back. Why? There were too many employees in the brewery in the past. Sometimes, one position would hire 3 or 4 positions. As long as they were residents of the town, they'd hire them unconditionally. This caused most of the employees to become slackers, Ban said. Also, many employees have dirty hands. Qin Zhao frowned. Dirty hands were a big taboo. Qin Zhao could afford the loss, but it didn't mean he was willing to keep them. Also, the accounts are messed up. Qin Zhao wasn't surprised. After all, the previous owner had messed up the accounts, which gave him an opportunity. If you want to rebuild the brewery, it's very likely to return to the chaotic situation in the past. If you hire those people again, then the bad things of the past will happen again. But if you don't, then the people in the town will gossip and say that you're a capitalist. You don't care, but Fei Lai and Lil Zhilin will be indirectly hurt. Ban stood in Qin Zhao's perspective and helped him consider many problems that Qin Zhao couldn't consider. If you're in charge, can you? Qin Zhao asked. I don't care. I'm an old face here. Those people aren't afraid of me, Ban said helplessly. So according to what you're saying, we don't need to run the winery anymore? Qin Zhao didn't care about this bit of profit, as long as he didn't lose money. If he could bring benefits to the town, Qin Zhao was willing to make some contributions. However, no one would be willing to accept the fact that they invested in it, lost money, and even raised a bunch of thieves. Qin, if you want to open a brewery, you have to break away from the town, Ban said. Half of the positions are filled with people from other places. As long as there's a comparison, the town's employees will be more restrained. The brewery's brand is still in the hands of the town government. The only valuable thing in the brewery was the 30-year-old logo. But the longer it dragged on, the less valuable the logo would be. Dashin Beer's trademark had disappeared from consumers' eyes for more than a year. Consumers were very forgetful. If they didn't see it for more than a year, they might even forget about the brand. Coca-Cola had done a test in the past. They stopped advertising for a month and sales fell by 80%. It didn't fall to 80%, but 80%. Of course, Dashin Beer's advertising and influence were definitely not as high as Coca-Cola's. Dashin Beer was a regional product. Its consumers were all in the LA area. In just a year, Dashin Beer's brand value had fallen by more than 50%. If it dragged on for another year, the brand's value might not even be 10%. There were too many similar products on the market that could be easily replaced. Consumers wouldn't stop buying just because they didn't have similar products. They could easily find substitutes. The town government couldn't afford to rebuild the brewery right now. According to Ban's suggestion, they could either buy the brand directly or create a brand new beer brand. If they bought the brand, the town government would definitely ask for an exorbitant price. If they built a brand, it would be difficult to expand the market. There were pros and cons to both. If they cooperated with the town government, the town would pay for the land and the brand would still belong to the town. However, they would have to feed a lot of idlers. Chen Dean Sloat is planning to run for mayor again. He must be very anxious now. After all, your answer is very important to him, so don't answer him so quickly. You can keep him hanging for now and wait for him to agree to some of your requests. Then you can cooperate with him and try to get more benefits. Anyway, it doesn't matter to you whether you open a brewery or not, but it's different for him. If he doesn't have a bargaining chip, it'll be very difficult for him to become mayor based on his past reputation. If I open a brewery, will you help me? Chen Zhao asked. As long as you need me, I'll definitely come, Ban said. Then what about your woodworking workshop? It's fine. My old friend and I started a woodworking workshop for fun when we had nothing to do. The workshop only cost a few $1,000s, and he could do it alone. The world would still spin without anyone, Ban said calmly. Besides, you might not be able to open a brewery here. By the way, did Dion Sloat take any bribes? Chen Zhao asked. Actually, Chen Zhao didn't have a bad impression of Dean. Perhaps it was because they had a personal relationship. Qin Zhao still felt that Dean wasn't as bad as the rumors in the town said. How would I know? If I had evidence, he'd be in jail long ago. Ban said disapprovingly. But I do know that he did some dishonorable things when he was the mayor. Oh? What things? Forget it, let's not talk about it. Although this guy has crossed the line, he is still very capable in terms of management. In the past, when he was the mayor, there was no big trouble in the town. Chen Zhao quite agreed with this. Compared to a year ago, the town was more stable. Chapter 11:15. According to Bant, he'd rather have corrupt officials than mediocre ones. Of course, this was also because he'd seen how much damage mediocre officials had done to the town in the past year. Chen Zhao was conflicted too. Usually, investments were for money. However, the first requirement wasn't very important to Chen Zhao. After all, a brewery had to have world-class sales and brand recognition. Otherwise, the profits were useless to Chen Zhao. On the other hand, Ban also mentioned the problem of hoodlums. For example, in the early days, some overseas Chinese invested in their hometown. Their initial goal wasn't to make money, but to make their hometown rich. However, most of these factories closed down in the end. This was because some people went to factories owned by overseas Chinese after being laid off from state-owned enterprises. However, they still had the habits of state-owned enterprises and were lazy, waiting to die. Qin Zhao wasn't related to the town's residents. The only family he knew, Ban, didn't rely on a brewery to survive. Therefore, Qin Zhao didn't consider short-term profits, but whether the price would rise in the long term. According to Bant, if the brewery was established, it could survive, but it would be difficult for it to grow. On the way home, Fei Lai asked, Chen, do you want to open a brewery? I'm still hesitating. Even if I do, the profits won't reach the ideal state. I don't think so, Fei Lai said. Did you forget about Mom's supermarket? Chen Zhao froze. What was Mara's supermarket's most popular product now? Of course, it was alcohol. Mara's supermarket's alcohol was world famous. Many tourists who visited Sacramento had to go to Marla to buy a bottle of wine. And many alcohol manufacturers hoped that Mara's supermarket would put their products on the shelves. From the world's top wine to ordinary everyday beer, it could be said that there was everything. Moreover, Mara's supermarket was also in a phase of rapid expansion. There was 1 branch in Europe and 10 branches in the US. Among the supermarket groups, Mara's supermarket was already a large chain supermarket group. There were 2 in Los Angeles alone. Although Mara's supermarket wasn't a wine appraisal agency, consumers believed that as long as it was on the shelves of Mara's supermarket, it must be good wine. In some alcohol advertisements, they even mentioned that their products were already on the shelves of Mara's supermarket. This had also created a herd mentality. Many manufacturers were proud to be a merchant in Mara's supermarket. Of course, this also caused Mara's supermarket to be very strict with alcohol products. If Qin Zhao really wanted to open a brewery, he would definitely put it on the shelves of Mara's supermarket. Winnip definitely wouldn't refuse. Chen Zhao fell into deep thought. According to Fei Lai, the brewery did have a bright future. However, he still needed to consult an expert on such matters. His own conjectures and calculations could never compare to a few words from an expert. Dad, I've found someone who can solve this problem. Who did you find? A spiritualist. Amira, why would you believe such a thing? Are you looking for a scammer? Of course not. I've seen his ability before. Dad, can you trust my judgment? Amira, you don't have to worry about this. I've already found someone to take care of it. They're professionals. Dad, who are you looking for? Mercenaries. They are the most professional mercenaries. There's nothing they can't solve. Dad, don't you think that normal people can't solve this problem? Do you think that the spiritualist you mentioned can solve the problem? We're facing a monster now, not some supernatural event. Depp's answer was very certain. Okay, that's it. Just do your job well. With that, Depp hung up the call with Yamala. There was another man in Depp's office. He lay on the chair opposite him lazily. He was tall and wore gold-framed glasses. Avenger, when will your people arrive? We'll be there tomorrow, Avinko answered. You can solve my problem, right? Depp asked worriedly. This isn't a normal attack. I saw a monster with my own eyes. Don't worry. I remember that we were invited by the British government last time and helped them deal with the Thames River monster. We're very experienced with this. Half a year ago, Avengers' mercenary team was invited to London to investigate a strange incident in the Thames River. Someone was playing by the Thames River when he was dragged into the river. Half of the victim's body was found more than 10 kilometers upstream. After a series of investigations, it was discovered that the attacker was not human, nor was it any known creature. It was a huge mutated catfish. The catfish was 10 meters long and almost invulnerable. Normal firearms could not harm the mutated catfish at all. At that time, the British Special Forces had lured the mutated catfish to a sewage treatment plant. However, they could not kill the mutated catfish. Instead, the mutated catfish killed several Special Forces members. In the end, it was still Avengers people who acted. One of the team members threw a high-explosive bomb into the mutated catfish's mouth and killed it. It was also because of that incident that Depp got to know Avenger. So after the incident, the first person Depp thought of was Avenger. Right, where did your team go? Depp asked. A man-eating shark appeared in the Hawaiian waters. It's more than 15 meters long. More than 10 fishermen have been killed. The local government hired my people to deal with it, Avenger said. Can you make it tomorrow? Of course. Avenger was not worried at all. Don't worry. When I spoke to them earlier, they already found traces of the shark. They should be able to solve it today. Avenger's answer was casual and very confident. This also gave Depp confidence. Now, he only hoped that the problem could be solved quickly. After all, if the construction site could not start, then the hundreds of millions of dollars he had invested would go up in smoke. It would be a loss of millions of dollars every day. Even if he had a big business, it would still be very painful. So even though Avenger had asked for a high commission, Depp still gritted his teeth and accepted it. As long as the problem could be solved, he would rather let it end as soon as possible. Right, if I want a complete monster body, can you do that? What do you want a monster body for? It's a one-of-a-kind monster. I want to use it as a specimen and put it in my living room. Chapter 11:16. A car stopped in front of Chen Zhao's house. A man in black alighted. Mr. Chen, Miss Amira sent me to pick you up. Okay, wait a moment. Chen Zhao had just woken up and hadn't had breakfast yet. Oh, have you eaten? Thanks, but no thanks. The man was very professional. He rejected Chen Zhao's invitation with a smile. After breakfast, Chen Zhao kissed Fei Lai goodbye. Then he got into the car. Where are we going now? Airport. Miss Amira is already waiting for you on the plane. Chen Zhao boarded Amira's private plane. Amira was having breakfast on the plane. Morning, Mr. Chen. Have you had breakfast? Amira's makeup was exquisite, and she had wavy blonde hair. Chen Zhao realized that Amira would change her hairstyle every time he saw her. Miss Amira, dealing with your hair too often is very harmful to your scalp. Amira lost her appetite immediately. She looked at Chen Zhao with a resentful expression. Fine, pretend I didn't say anything. Chen Zhao waved his hands and said helplessly. Do all rich people like you have a private plane? With your current assets, you can definitely buy one. The cost of this Gulfstream G550 plus the interior costs won't exceed $50 million. Forget it. Chen Zhao shook his head. Maintenance costs another 2 to 3 million every year. Oh, Mr. Chen, I told you before that my father's temper isn't very good. Do you remember? Amira was giving Chen Zhao a heads up. If he offends you in any way when you see him, please forgive him. Of course, Chen Zhao said with a smile. I've always been easy to talk to. Amira didn't believe that Chen Zhao was easy to talk to at all. Oh, Miss Amira, I want to ask you a question about business. Mr. Chen, are you planning to start a business? Or invest in some financial products? Sort of. Someone asked me to invest in a beer factory. Qin Zhao told her what had happened. A small brand in a place like this probably can't even make $1 million a year. Amira's analysis was very accurate. She could roughly analyze the situation and profit level from Qin Zhao's simple words. However, she was the manager of the bank after all, so this kind of ability was not surprising. Profitability is secondary. I'm thinking about whether the brewery has the potential to increase in value. Also, is there any way I can set up a brewery without letting moths into it? It's very simple. Use high benefits and high pressure policies to manage your employees. What do you mean? I don't need to explain the high benefits. The benefits you give are at least twice the pay and benefits of similar manufacturers. The high pressure policy is not to set strict management rules. Anyone who makes a mistake, even the slightest mistake, will be fired immediately. What's the difference between this and normal management? Chen Zhao was confused. A normal company's management system is flexible. For example, if someone takes a document home and forgets to bring it back, they will only get a warning from their superiors. However, high-pressure management means that even the slightest mistake will cause them to be fired. This will attract the attention of the union. If the union interferes, it'll be very troublesome. That's the problem. If the union interferes, they'll stop production. Stopping production won't affect you much, but it means unemployment for the employees, so they'll try to resume production. If there are similar problems in the future, the employees will also supervise each other. This high-pressure management doesn't have to last for too long. In 3 months, the employees will be able to form self-discipline. Qin Zhao had to admit that he had racked his brains for an entire night. To Amira, this wasn't a problem at all. This problem was easily solved. But I won't be able to help much in terms of marketing, said Amira. No need. I'll put the beer on Mara supermarket's shelves, Qin Zhao said. Your brewery hasn't even started and you're confident that you can put your product on Mara supermarket's shelves? Fei Lai's mother is the owner of Mara supermarket, Qin Zhao said. No wonder. After flying for 2 hours, the plane finally arrived in Abilene. Abilene was a small city in Kansas with a population of less than 120,000. There had once been a president here, Eisenhower Will. Its main income came from farming and animal husbandry. It had a certain industrial base. Abilene's airport only had domestic flights, so there were only a few people in the airport. After leaving the airport, Qin Zhao got into the car that Amira had arranged for him and went straight to the suburbs of Abilene. According to the law, some polluting projects weren't allowed to be built in densely populated areas. They had to be at least 100 kilometers away. Thus, the land that Amira's father had bought was very remote. After leaving the city, there were no buildings along the way. There were even very few cars on the road. A car might pass by every few minutes. After driving for about half an hour, Qin Zhao saw the construction site. It was a huge plain. The area within a radius of hundreds of kilometers was like this. Only the shadows of mountains could be seen in the distance. The place seemed rather desolate. As long as he opened the car window, he could smell the soil. The car stopped outside the construction site and was stopped. Amira picked up the phone. Dad, I'm outside the construction site. What? Why are you here? This isn't a place you should be. Dad, I brought someone. Who? I told you before. Someone who can help you solve your problem. Wait at the door. I'll be right there. A while later, Depp came out with the person. Depp first glanced at Qin Zhao, who was standing beside Amira, and then at Amira. Amira, is this the person you were talking about? Yes, Dad. Amira answered with certainty. He's the person who can help you solve your problem. How much did you give him? I've already paid $10 million in advance. According to the agreement, you still have to pay him $20 million after this is over. Depp's face darkened, and Ivinko, who was standing beside Depp, was also shocked. Buddy, you really dared to ask for a high price. Avinko grinned at Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao glanced at Avinko and Depp, not saying anything. Amira had already warned him before. He didn't need to care about her father's words. In any case, he didn't work here to fight with Depp. Chapter 11-17. Qin Zhao glanced at Depp and then at Amira. Dad, if you don't want to pay, I'll pay. Amira was very determined. But to Depp, his daughter had been tricked. Kid, I don't care what method you use to get my daughter's trust, but I can tell you responsibly that if you don't return the money, I'll make sure you never have peace again. Dad. Amira stood in front of Qin Zhao. If you dare to touch my friend, I won't allow it. She was afraid that Qin Zhao and Depp would have a violent conflict. Qin Zhao didn't say anything. He didn't care how Depp doubted him. It wasn't Depp who hired him anyway. Amira, don't you understand? This guy's a liar. I can tell whether he's a liar or not, Amira said calmly. Kid, then tell me how you're going to solve this problem? Why do I have to explain to you? You're not paying me, Qin Zhao said calmly. Depp was seething with anger. Just then, a cloud of dust rose from the road outside. 3 jeeps came, kicking up a cloud of dust. My people are here, Avinko said. The jeep stopped. 8 or 9 mercenaries jumped down from the car. Boss. How's the mission in Hawaii? Hawaii is beautiful, a black man with dreadlocks said. It's my first time there. If I have the chance, I'll definitely go again. I'm asking about your mission. We failed, a short-haired woman with a small waist said. Failed? Avinko frowned. How did we fail? We injured the shark, but it escaped. We couldn't do anything in the water. Fine. Avinko nodded. Let me introduce you. This is Mr. Depp, our employer this time. I hope we won't fail again. No, we're on the ground. As long as the monster appears, it won't have a chance to escape. That's for the best. Avinko nodded. When can you leave? Depp asked. We need to assemble the weapons first, one of the mercenaries said. These things can't be delivered in one piece. Dad, prepare 2 rooms for me, Inchin. No. Take this liar and leave this place immediately. I'll deal with him later. Dad, I said he's not a liar. I don't want to argue with you now. Get him out of here, Depp said. I'm not leaving, Amira said firmly. Up to you. Depp glanced at Qin Zhao, not hiding his disgust at all. Is this guy a liar? The mercenaries all looked at Qin Zhao. The man with dreadlocks looked at Qin Zhao and made a shooting gesture with his finger. Bye. Depp led the mercenaries inside and left Qin Zhao and Yamala at the door. Mr. Chen, what should we do now? There's no rush. Let's wait and see. If those mercenaries can solve the problem, you can save 20 million, right? Qin Zhao said, unconcerned. I'm going to sleep in the car. The mercenaries were busy reassembling the equipment. Depp walked into the room, which was originally a temporary building for the construction workers. However, there were only a few of them in the entire construction site. All the workers were on holiday because of the accident here. The construction was still far from resuming. Guys, how's your preparation going? Almost. We can go now, the short-haired female mercenary said. Boss, are you coming with us this time? I won't go in. I'll wait for your good news here. Okay. Aren't you going to leave after dinner? Depp asked. No, we'll eat when we come back. Oh, do you want us to help you get rid of that liar? I'll make him disappear forever for $10,000, the man with dreadlocks said. Depp's eyes flickered as he said, Let's wait. Wait until this is over, then we'll settle the score with that swindler. My money isn't that easy to take. No matter how much he took, I'll make him spit it out with interest. Be careful when you go in, Avinko said. We don't have any exact information on that monster yet. Got it, boss. The mercenaries all equipped themselves with various weapons. Okay, Mr. Depp, take us to the cave. Depp brought the mercenaries to an empty space, but there was a huge and thick metal plate covering it. This metal plate weighed about 10 tons. Everyone looked at Depp. This metal plate is to prevent the thing inside from escaping. Is it useful? Depp shook his head. That thing is too strong. I originally wanted to cover it with a metal plate and pour cement over it, but the result wasn't ideal. Avinko couldn't go down, so he was in charge of activating the crane and covering the metal plate. After the metal plate was lifted, a crack about 5 meters long and 3 to 4 meters wide appeared on the ground. What's the environment like down there? It's about 10 meters deep, and then there's a relatively flat tunnel. A man-made tunnel? No, it should be a natural crack in the ground, Depp said. I don't know if it's deeper than that. Danny, Avinko said. You'll be in command after we go down. Be careful. The short-haired female mercenary nodded. The mercenaries started putting on pulleys and ropes, and then they went down one by one. When they reached the bottom of the cave, Danny waved her hand. Prepare to enter. Everyone be on guard. The tunnel in the crack was relatively wide. Some parts were more than 2 to 3 meters wide, but the narrow parts were also very narrow. The mercenaries even had to lean sideways to pass through. This narrow place is so small. How can the monster get through? Who cares how it gets through? We'll get rid of it as soon as possible, and then we can drink in the city. All of you, shut up. Can't you see what's going on? Aren't you afraid that the noise will attract the monster? Danny scolded. It's better if it's attracted. Saves us the trouble of looking for it. Danny, you're only the temporary leader, not the real leader. Danny glanced at her companions and didn't say anything else. Just then, Danny felt something kick under her foot. She looked down. It was a human's broken limb. Danny frowned. Damn it! The mercenaries continued deeper, but they didn't encounter any monster attacks along the way. Just how deep is this crack in the ground? Chapter 11-18. The mercenaries walked for more than 10 minutes without encountering anything. Damn it, how deep is this monster hiding? Sweetheart, come out, come to Daddy. They looked back and saw the man with dreadlocks mumbling to himself. Nandev, be careful or your son will eat you. Ha ha. Everyone laughed, except for Danny, who looked serious. Although Avinko had appointed her as the leader, temporarily commanding the team. But without Avinko, no one took her words seriously. Whoosh! What's that? Nandev shouted. They thought Nandev was joking again. But when they looked back at Nandev, they saw a wet tongue tied to his body. When they looked up again, a giant monster with its mouth wide open had appeared above them without them noticing. The monster's mouth was wide open like a bucket, and its limbs were stuck to the rock above. But because there was no light in the cave, it was hard to notice. They were all wearing night vision goggles, and their vision was greatly obstructed. Fire! Fire! Danny shouted. Da-da-da! They immediately fired at the monster. With a flick of its tongue, the monstrous creature dragged Nandev along the rock wall and left at a rapid speed. Save me! Save me! Save me! Nandev's voice echoed in the darkness. Go! Danny shouted, and everyone immediately chased in the direction the troll had fled. Nandev's voice came from the depths of the cave, shouting. But soon, a scream came from the depths of the crack. It was Nandev's voice, and he was obviously dead. Everyone's expression turned ugly. Don't chase, Nandev can't be saved. Be careful, and don't forget the top, Danny said in a low voice. Because one of their companions had died, everyone was in low spirits. Just then, Danny saw a green liquid on the wall, glowing faintly. It looks like the monster's blood, it's injured. Huh? Is that a man-made building? They looked up and saw a brick wall in front of the crack. However, the bricks on the wall were cracked. It should be due to the groundwork that caused the cracks to appear inside the building. The monster must have come out from this underground building. When everyone entered the crack, they found that the crack was the outer wall of an inlaid underground building. This was a ring-shaped well with a diameter of more than 30 meters. Its depth was unknown, and there was a winding staircase that extended into the depths. The top of the ring-shaped well was a thick rock formation, completely sealed off. Without the construction on the surface, the monsters here would never see the light of day. Danny took out a paintball, lit it, and threw it into the circular well. After a few seconds, the paintball fell to the bottom. At this time, everyone saw countless skeletons below. The bottom of the circular well was completely covered with bones. There were also many caves on the walls. In the middle of the pile of bones stood a copper pillar with a diameter of 1 meter. There was a very thick chain attached to the pillar, but the chain had already been broken. How many people have died here? I'm afraid there are thousands of them. This might be a cemetery of the ancient Inca civilization. It could also be an execution ground. Execution ground? Someone purposely left their enemies here to feed the monster. That monster can't eat that many people. Who cares? Let's go down and kill the monster. Our mission will be complete. We can't go down, Danny suddenly said. Why? There's more than one monster, Danny said seriously. How do you know? Look at the holes below. Those holes look like the nests of those monsters. It's likely that these monsters were deliberately kept here by someone. However, for some unknown reason, this place was completely sealed off. Everyone looked at the densely packed caves and felt their scalps go numb. Then what do we do? Use the grenades, Danny said. Everyone throw the grenades down. No one dared to joke around anymore. They all took out the grenades they brought with them. The grenades weren't the kind with a strong impact. They could shoot out a large amount of phosphorus in a short period of time, which would stick to the skin and cause severe burns. In an instant, the ground below was set ablaze. Just then, a monster rushed out of the cave. The monster's body was quickly set ablaze, but it seemed fine and continued climbing the wall. It rushed to where everyone was. Everyone saw that the monster was completely set ablaze, but it was completely fine. They quickly sprayed it with their machine guns. Although this monster was immune to fire damage, bullets could still cause damage to it. The monster was riddled with holes and fell into the pit of bones. Just then, a claw reached out from the pile of bones and grabbed the dead monster. Everyone's expression changed when they saw this. There was an even bigger monster hidden in the pile of bones. But then, more monsters came out of the cave. The claw appeared again, grabbed a monster, and dragged it into the pile of bones. The other monsters were like warriors. They kept crawling out of the caves and climbed up to attack the group. Because there were too many monsters, the mercenaries' firepower wasn't enough to clear them all. Soon, one of Danny's companions was wrapped by the monster's long tongue and swallowed. Retreat, retreat! Danny made a prompt decision. They couldn't continue fighting now. Everyone escaped out of the circular well through the crack. However, the long-tongued monsters were still chasing them. They seemed to have some substance on their bodies that could keep burning. Moreover, the flames didn't harm them at all. They followed the mercenaries out of the crack. The dark crack was illuminated by the flames on their bodies. The mercenaries fought and retreated, but there were too many long-tongued monsters. Everyone had to concentrate their firepower to barely kill one of them. Another mercenary was caught by a long-tongued monster, screaming. Use high explosives! Danny shouted. We'll die first if we use high explosives in such a narrow place. I don't care anymore. Danny hurled a grenade at him. A monster with a long tongue actually wrapped itself around the high explosive bomb and swallowed it. Watch out! Everyone fell to the ground at the same time. Then, there was a loud explosion. The entire crack was shaken by the explosion and rocks kept falling. A few long-tongued monsters were caught in the explosion and were blasted into pieces. Let's go. Danny saw that the long-tongued monsters had temporarily stopped chasing them. He immediately shouted and ran out frantically. Chapter 11:19. They rushed to the exit. Fortunately, they had left behind ropes just now, so they quickly climbed up the ropes. But just then, the scorching heat came from below. The long-tongued monster rushed out again. Another mercenary screamed as he was pulled down the rope. Danny didn't care about friendly fire and threw a grenade down. Boom! Another long-tongued monster was killed. In the end, only 5 mercenaries managed to escape to the surface. Avenko and Depp heard the roar and came out to check the situation. Then they saw Danny and the others return. Danny, is the monster dead? No, boss. Quickly cover the metal plate. There are a lot of monsters down there, a lot of monsters. Not dead? Just then, flames came from below again. Avenko frowned. He saw the long-tongued monster whose entire body was on fire. Avenko fired a few shots at the monster. It was about to climb up, but Avenko shot it back to the bottom of the cave. However, Avenko's gun did very little damage to the long-tongued monster. Mr. Depp, you'd better step back. Depp gulped and hurriedly took a few steps back. Roar! Just then, a loud roar came from the depths of the crack. Everyone standing at the entrance felt the airflow change. Everyone hurriedly covered the metal plates and placed a lot of bombs at the entrance of the cave. Everyone looked nervously under the metal plate. Suddenly, the metal plate flew up. It was accompanied by a loud explosion. Dust and smoke filled the entrance of the cave. Then, moving flames appeared in the smoke. Fire! Fire! Avenko yelled. Roar! Accompanied by a violent roar, a huge black-skinned monster stood at the entrance of the cave. The surrounding smoke was dispersed by this loud roar. The huge monster looked like it had evolved from some crocodile. Its limbs were short and thick, but it stood upright. It was at least 8 meters long and more than 5 meters tall when it stood up. It dragged a thick tail behind it, and was covered in flames. But it didn't seem to have heard of it. There was also an iron hoop and a thick broken iron chain around its neck. Its head was like a crocodile's, and its belly was white. But its back was like a rock. However, its back was already red from the heat. Those long-tongued monsters looked like its larvae, and the two were somewhat similar in some characteristics. Outside the construction site, Chen Zhao and Amira were eating dinner on the roof of a car. Mr. Chen, do you hear that? Yeah, I heard it. I think they messed it up. Chen Zhao got off the roof. Chen Zhao and Amira had been waiting outside the construction site for more than 3 hours. Chen Zhao had already woken up. Is my father all right? Amira immediately became anxious. Chen Zhao continued to eat his sandwich unhurriedly. I don't know. I'll go in and take a look after dinner. Mr. Chen, are you still in the mood to eat? What else? Your father doesn't want to see me anyway. Mr. Chen, please go and save my father. I'm afraid he's in danger. Don't worry. Listen to the frequency of the gunshots. It seems like they are still in the middle of a fierce battle. Maybe they are finishing up now. Mr. Chen. Chen Zhao looked up at Amira. Ms. Amira, I didn't accept the mission to save your father. It was your father who rejected me. Chen Zhao was still very petty. Depp had been so rude to him earlier. Of course, Chen Zhao didn't want to save him. Amira panicked. If you don't go, I'll go. Amira took out a gun from somewhere and was about to enter the construction site. Suddenly, a jeep dashed out from inside. But the jeep was moving too fast. There was no time for it to make a turn, and it directly crashed into the front of Amira's car, which was parked at the entrance. Amira, why are you still here? Depp exclaimed. Damn, the car's broken. I can't move. Avenko cursed. Roar! Another monster roar came from the back. Everyone looked back. The huge crocodile monster had charged out with its minions behind it. The flames on their bodies had already ignited the entire construction site. When the crocodile monster charged, it crawled on all fours, just like a crocodile. However, it could stand up on its own. Prepare to fight. Avenko didn't panic. He grabbed a machine gun and started shooting at the crocodile monster. However, when the bullets hit the crocodile monster, they only created sparks. The damage was limited. The other long-tongued monsters scattered immediately. Amira, let's go. Depp called. Amira looked at Chen Zhao. Mr. Chen, it's your turn now. You have no reason to refuse now, right? No rush. Chen Zhao said unhurriedly. Wait until they're all dead. Depp glared at Qin Zhao, who was sitting on the roof. Kid, I'll remember you. You better remember, Qin Zhao said, unconcerned. The crocodile monster was different from its minions. It was smarter and stronger. It quickly hid in a house and came out from the other side. At the same time, it grabbed a bulldozer parked nearby and threw it at the mercenaries. The bulldozer, which weighed several tons, smashed into the jeep and exploded its fuel tank. Now, Avinko and the others finally realized how troublesome this monster was. But now, they had no other choice but to fight back. Taking advantage of the explosion, the crocodile monster jumped over. It stomped a mercenary to death and swung its tail. Another mercenary screamed and flew away. Everyone's faces were pale as they looked at the huge monster in front of them in horror. Hey, monster! Suddenly, Avinko shouted from behind the crocodile monster. The crocodile monster turned around and looked at Avinko. Roar! Avinko suddenly threw a grenade into the crocodile monster's mouth. Boom! A violent explosion came from the crocodile monster's mouth. But the crocodile monster didn't fall. Avinko's legs went soft. At this moment, he finally lost his usual calmness. The crocodile monster seemed to be immortal. The gunshots stopped. Everyone stared at the crocodile monster anxiously. The crocodile monster looked down at Avinko with a hint of mockery. Just then, a long-tongued monster that had circled behind the crowd curled its tongue around Depp. Mr. Chen, please save my dad. Seeing that Qin Zhao wasn't moved, Amira immediately shouted. $30 million! I'll raise the price. $30 million! Qin Zhao suddenly jumped off the roof and disappeared into the darkness. Not long after, Qin Zhao returned with Depp, who was still in shock. Chapter 11:20. Qin Zhao tossed Depp onto the ground. If I don't receive the money in 1 minute, I'll throw you back to those monsters. Depp was also scared out of his wits. He was dumbfounded during the entire process. He'd never been so close to death. He thought that he was dead for sure, but the next moment, he realized that the monster grabbing him didn't seem to be able to stand still. Then he fell into Qin Zhao's hands. You're blackmailing me. Depp still didn't understand the situation. Amira immediately went up. Mr. Qin, I promise in my name that I won't go back on my word. Fine, I'll believe you. Amira looked at the monsters surrounding him and gulped. So, Mr. Qin, are you willing to help now? At the moment, Amelia was equally nervous. Suddenly, a monster shot its tongue over and wrapped around Qin Zhao's body. Seeing that Qin Zhao was wrapped up, the remaining mercenaries naturally thought that he was dead for sure. However, something unexpected happened. Qin Zhao wasn't dragged away. Instead, he stood there without moving. On the contrary, the long-tongued monster was pulled over by Qin Zhao. Everyone stared at Qin Zhao in disbelief. These monsters weighed more than 500 kilograms and were at least 3 meters long. How did this man pull them? But the monster wasn't stupid. Since it couldn't pull Qin Zhao, it opened its mouth and tried to cover Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao was about to be swallowed by the monster. Suddenly, Qin Zhao raised his arms and grabbed the monster's upper and lower jaws. Whoosh! Depp's eyes widened. Qin Zhao actually tore the long-tongued monster in half. Everyone stared at Qin Zhao in disbelief. Just now, he'd torn the monster in half? Did that really happen? Even the crocodile monster noticed Qin Zhao. It turned to look at Qin Zhao. Ignoring Avinko, it charged at Qin Zhao. Just then, Qin Zhao was wrapped up by another monster's tongue. Oh no! Seeing this, everyone started to worry for Qin Zhao. The crocodile monster smashed into Qin Zhao, sending him flying more than 10 meters away. He landed in the fire of the exploded jeep. It's over! Depp's heart sank. Amira's face was pale as well. She had high hopes for Qin Zhao. But Qin Zhao had died just like that. This was something she had never dreamed of. Just as everyone was in despair, Qin Zhao stood up in the flames. Then, Qin Zhao grabbed the flaming bulldozer. The The bulldozer was lifted up and smashed towards the crocodile monster. The crocodile monster had the same thought as everyone else. The bulldozer had already smashed into the crocodile monster's body and was sent flying more than 10 meters away. Qin Zhao patted the flames on his body and walked out. Depp, Avinko, and the rest all stared at Qin Zhao, dumbfounded. Qin Zhao shrugged as if he was warming up. Now, the way everyone looked at Qin Zhao had completely changed. This man was the real monster. He was a monster through and through. The crocodile monster pushed away the bulldozer on its body and stood up again. Roar! This time, the crocodile monster wasn't so careless. It looked at Qin Zhao with vigilance and hostility. Previously, it had only treated Qin Zhao as food, but now, Qin Zhao was an enemy, a powerful enemy. The crocodile monster crouched on the ground and charged at Qin Zhao. But when it was less than 5 meters away from Qin Zhao, the crocodile monster suddenly turned around. Its huge tail swept towards Qin Zhao. There were still flames burning on its tail. Bang! Everyone felt a little dizzy from the sound. It was too loud. Just when they thought Qin Zhao would be swept away, he only moved a few meters back and hugged the flaming tail. Ah! Qin Zhao also roared. The crocodile monster started spinning in Qin Zhao's hand. Bang! Qin Zhao grabbed the crocodile monster's tail and smashed it into the bulldozer. The bulldozer had already become a piece of scrap metal. Then it smashed into Amira's car. Amira's car was also flattened instantly. Qin Zhao swung the huge crocodile monster again. This time, he smashed it into the ground. The crocodile monster suddenly turned around and spat out a pillar of fire at Qin Zhao. Boom! Qin Zhao was blown away. Everyone tensed up again, but Qin Zhao stood up again. It can actually spit fire, Qin Zhao muttered to himself. Yen percent hashtag yen. Qin Zhao suddenly raised his head. Did this guy come from hell? But that didn't seem strange. Qin Zhao looked at the crocodile monster's neck. There was a metal collar around it, just like a dog's collar. There was also a chain on the collar. Qin Zhao moved again and charged at the crocodile monster. The crocodile monster spat out flames again. But this explosion couldn't stop Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao had already reached the crocodile monster and grabbed the chain around its neck. Pooh! The crocodile monster was pulled to the ground. Qin Zhao dragged the chain through the crocodile's mouth and then jumped onto its back, tugging on it like a rope. The crocodile monster struggled crazily, but Qin Zhao only had to pull the chain upwards and the crocodile's upper jaw was almost broken. Everyone was watching this thrilling battle. Dad, how do you feel now? Amira glanced at her father. Depp's face was bright red. He didn't answer Amira's question. Because of your stubbornness and suspicion, I have to pay 30 million more, Amira said angrily. I'll pay for it. Depp turned his head away. Actually, his heart was dripping blood. Even if he was a billionaire, $30 million wasn't a small amount. If it was anyone else, they would probably feel heartache. Crack! Just then, Qin Zhao ripped off the crocodile monster's upper jaw. The crocodile monster's arrogance instantly weakened. Qin Zhao took out his bronze sword and pierced through the crocodile monster's skull. Mr. Qin, $5 million. I want this monster's body intact. Amira knew that her father collected animal corpses as specimens and kept them in his house. But she didn't expect her father to be so obsessed with them. After the crocodile monster's skull was pierced through, it struggled for a while and then stopped breathing. The moment those long-tongued monsters saw that their boss was dead, they immediately fled, all of them fleeing towards the underground cave. Qin Zhao jumped down from the crocodile monster's body. I hope to see the transfer tomorrow. Is that okay? Chapter 11:21. Qin Zhao glanced at Depp and didn't say anything. However, his attitude had already explained everything. He refused. Mr. Qin, Amira said, please help the monsters that escaped back into the cave. Qin Zhao nodded. I'll do it according to our agreement. Qin Zhao walked to the cave and jumped in alone. Depp let out a long sigh. Amira, where did you find this guy? Compared to this monster, he's more like. Dad, if you know the enemies he fought in the past, you won't think he's that strong. After entering the cave, Qin Zhao went straight to the depths. He didn't encounter a single monster along the way. Soon, he found the circular well in the depths. All the long-tongued monsters were gathered below. They seemed to have sensed Qin Zhao's arrival. They all barked at him like a bunch of mad dogs. Qin Zhao frowned, not because of the monster's frenzied reactions, but because of the bronze pillar. Qin Zhao jumped down from above and landed on the pile of bones. The monsters tried to attack him, but he killed a few on the spot. There was a broken chain on the pillar. Thinking of the collar and chain on the crocodile's neck, it wasn't hard to guess that the crocodile had been chained to the pillar. There were many patterns on the pillar, and one of the largest patterns was that of a crocodile monster. In the pattern, the crocodile was eating people while a group of people knelt on the ground. It was as if the crocodile was a god. There were also demonic words on the pillar. It seemed to be a spell. Qin Zhao recognized the demonic words. Sakami Domi Adonis. Qin Zhao chanted the demonic words. Just then, the pillar suddenly shook. The surrounding monsters seemed to be affected by the spell and became even more frenzied, but they didn't dare to approach Qin Zhao. As Qin Zhao continued chanting, the monsters actually started dispersing. They turned into a beam of green light and entered the pillar. Every time Qin Zhao chanted a note, another tongue monster would disappear. Qin Zhao was confused. When Qin Zhao finished the last note, all the tongue-tied monsters disappeared. Qin Zhao pulled the pillar up bit by bit. It was at least 20 meters long. Could this be the Rui Jingu Bang? Qin Zhao laughed at himself. He was thinking too much. However, he discovered that there was another demonic incantation carved on the other side of the pillar. Qin Zhao was a bit surprised, but under the urge of curiosity, he still chanted the spell. The long-tongued monster that had disappeared earlier reappeared before Qin Zhao. But this time, they didn't attack him. Instead, they knelt on the ground devoutly. Is this copper pillar the artifact used to control these long-tongued monsters? These long-tongued monsters seemed to be very reluctant to return to the copper pillar. However, Qin Zhao still chanted the first part of the spell and pulled all the tongue monsters back into the pillar. Qin Zhao was more curious about the bronze pillar's origin. Qin Zhao put the copper pillar into his spatial ring. After returning to the surface, Depp and Amira had yet to leave. When they saw Qin Zhao jump out of the 10-meter deep hole, they were secretly shocked. Mr. Qin, is it settled? Yup, it's done. There's not a single monster down there. The two heaved a long sigh of relief. Depp was very regretful now. Because of his doubt, he had to pay an extra $30 million. However, Qin Zhao's display of strength made him not have the courage to go back on his word. Mr. Qin, is there anything else? Back to the hotel. Tomorrow, Qin Zhao said calmly. Amira called a car and sent Qin Zhao back to the city. To be honest, the battle today wasn't that intense for Qin Zhao. However, he actually felt tired. After arriving at the hotel, Qin Zhao washed up and hurriedly went to bed. In a daze, Qin Zhao suddenly woke up. When he opened his eyes again, he seemed to have appeared in an unknown place. Surrounded by copper pillars, Qin Zhao rubbed his forehead. Qin Zhao was very clear-headed now. He was dreaming. He was in a dream. However, he couldn't wake up. Qin Zhao started pacing around the pillars. Suddenly, he saw figures in front of him. One of them was a 10-meter-tall female giant. She lay on the ground lazily, one hand resting on her head. She looked like a reclining Buddha. Although the female giant was huge, she gave off an indescribable sense of beauty. Not to mention her figure, just based on her appearance, this female giant was definitely a peerless beauty. The female giant kept yawning as if she hadn't slept enough. A man knelt before the female giant. The man kept saying something. However, Qin Zhao couldn't hear their conversation. The female giant didn't seem to want to pay attention to the man. At this time, the man took out a golden knife and cut his wrist. Then he raised his bleeding arm high. Soon, a pool of blood formed on the ground. The female giant finally looked at the man in the eye, and then opened her mouth to speak. Qin Zhao couldn't hear anything, but he could see the female giant's lips. In wrath, terror, alas! Qin Zhao unconsciously repeated the female giant's incantation. Then, the surrounding copper pillars started glowing. They turned into beams of different colors and shot into the sky. Qin Zhao looked up at the sky. Only then did he realize that the place in his dream wasn't the human world. It was hell. However, why did he have such a strange dream? This female giant should be a demon, right? Who is she? Who's the person kneeling on the ground? Suddenly, the female giant looked at Qin Zhao. The moment he met her gaze, Qin Zhao's body and mind shook. Whoosh! Qin Zhao sat up from the bed. He'd woken up. Was it because the dream had ended? Or was it because he'd been woken up by the female giant in his dream? Did the female giant know that he was in his dream? Qin Zhao felt strange. The female giant, the man, and the copper pillars. Qin Zhao looked outside the window. It was actually morning. Qin Zhao walked to the window and pulled open the curtains. He enjoyed bathing in the sunlight. However, his mind was still filled with the female giant's eyes. Had the female giant barged into his dream, or had he dreamt of the female giant? However, it definitely had something to do with the copper pillar. He'd had such a strange dream because he'd taken the pillar. Chapter 11:22. There was really no place to play in Abilene. The most famous place was the former president's former residence, and 2 museums. Qin Zhao walked around Abilene in the morning. Even Amira didn't know where to take him. Qin Zhao was glad that he didn't bring Fei Lai. That afternoon, Qin Zhao returned home. When he got home, he immediately took out the bronze pillar and threw it in the backyard. "Ha! Demon God Pillar!" Beelzebub exclaimed in surprise when he saw it. "What demon God Pillar? You know about this?" Qin Zhao didn't expect to get the answer so easily. "It's very common in hell," Beelzebub said. "In order to control low-level demons, some high-level demons will imprison them in demon god pillars. But the main demon of this pillar seems to be gone." "I killed it," Qin Zhao said. "Now, only some small fries are sealed inside. Next time you go to hell, you can find a powerful demon and imprison him in this demon god pillar. This demon god pillar looks pretty high level. There's only release and recall spells on it. There's no imprison spell," Qin Zhao said. "Do you know the imprison spell? If you don't understand, you can ask King Samuel." Just then, Fei Lai and Zherlin, who was carrying Samuel, walked to the backyard. Seeing the demon god pillar, Fei Lai was stunned. "Chun, what's this? Demon god pillar? Are you talking about one of Solomon's 72 demon god pillars?" Hearing Fei Lai's words, Qin Zhao couldn't help but be stunned. Among all the legends in the West, Solomon's 72 demon god pillars were one of the more familiar ones. But before this, Qin Zhao hadn't thought about this. Moreover, Solomon was the king of the ancient Jewish kingdom. Qin Zhao wouldn't associate something that appeared in North America with Solomon. "I don't think so." Qin Zhao wasn't sure either. After all, anything related to demons couldn't be understood with common sense. For example, Abaddon. Who would have thought that it had the appearance of a mummy? "Is there a demon god inside?" I killed the demon god inside last night." "Really, if you meet him again, remember to catch him alive. I want to see what the legendary demon god looks like." "Okay, I'll remember." Qin Zhao smiled bitterly. However, were these demon god pillars really Solomon's 72 demon god pillars? Qin Zhao reached out and touched the demon god pillar. The moment he touched it, the female giant's eyes flashed across his mind. After returning to the villa, Qin Zhao picked up the computer and searched for information about Solomon and the 72 demon god pillars. Through the search engine, a lot of information about this legend quickly popped up. In many historical records, Solomon sought refuge from the demon king of hell, Belial, in order to consolidate his royal power. After that, the demon king of hell Belial and Solomon signed a contract. Solomon could command the 72 demon gods under Belial, but the price was that after Solomon died, his soul would belong to Belial. During Solomon's reign, the country was extremely powerful. However, before he died, Solomon sealed the 72 demon gods in a bottle. After Solomon's death, the Babylonians immediately seized the opportunity to invade the Jewish kingdom. They mistakenly opened the bottle with the 72 demon gods sealed inside, causing them to escape and disappear without a trace. Chen Zhao sank into deep thought. If he analyzed it according to the information he had found, based on the information he'd found, and his dream, the female giant he saw was Belial? And the person kneeling in front of the female giant is Solomon? Right, Ammon was Belial's subordinate. He could go and ask him. Chen Zhao walked to the lake and looked at a water monster with a white belly in the distance. Ammon was usually too lazy to move, so he just floated on the water like this. Chen Zhao shouted, "Ammon, come here!" Ammon didn't move, so Chen Zhao continued shouting. Only then did Ammon flip over and slowly swim to the shore. "Master, what are you doing? Is your subordinate, the king of sloth, Belial, male or female?" "I don't know." "You don't know? How are you a subordinate?" "I'm King Belial's subordinate, not his son. How would I know if he's male or female? Plus, with King Belial's ability, it doesn't matter to him whether he's male or female. Only you humans care about this." Qin Zhao realized that communicating with Ammon was really painful. This lazy guy had been with him for a year. When Qin Zhao gave him his salary, he often asked for demonic crystals. But every time Qin Zhao talked to him, his attitude was still like he was a demon master. It was the same for Beelzebub. "Last night, I killed a demon god pillar familiar. I suspect it's Belial's demon god pillar," Qin Zhao said. "Do you have a way to tell? Let me see." Qin Zhao brought the demon god pillar to Ammon. Ammon shook his head in the water. "I can't tell. Apart from the fact that it looks like an advanced demon god pillar, I can't tell anything else." "Advanced demon god pillar? But that familiar feels very weak. I didn't even use 1/10 of my power. Who said that advanced demon god pillars have to imprison powerful demons?" Ammon said matter-of-factly. "Demon god pillars usually imprison demons with special bloodlines. Their combat power might not be high. But I don't feel that the familiar has any special abilities. Maybe it's not a battle-type special ability," Ammon said. "Are there any crocodile-type familiars in Belial's 72 demon god pillars?" "I don't know," Ammon answered. Ammon replied, "In addition, you seem to be mistaken. King Beria has far more than 72 demon pillars. King Beria controls 11 demon legions, and each legion has 6,666 demons. Belial wouldn't imprison all his demons in the demon god pillars, right? Lord Belial is very lazy, so he always brings all his servants with him." This was a level of laziness that had reached a certain level. But it was understandable. Belial was the king of sloth. There was no demon in the entire hell that was lazier than Belial. Qin Zhao looked at the demon god pillar and stabbed it into the ground. No one would be able to steal it anyway. Moreover, if an enemy came to invade, he could directly chant an incantation or directly summon minions to kill the enemy. Unfortunately, Qin Zhao had killed the main familiar. He should have kept the crocodile-type monster. It didn't have high combat power, but it looked cool. Oh, do you know how to imprison demons in demon god pillars? Chapter 11:23. The next day, Chen Zhao went to school directly. After all, he'd promised Evely that he'd start her pre-race training. Chen Zhao wanted to continue driving his truck, but Fei Lai forced him to drive his new car. It was quite eye-catching to drive a $1 million supercar into the school. Chen Zhao wanted to keep a low profile. But Fei Lai's retort made him speechless. "You want to keep a low profile after buying this car?" Chen Zhao was speechless. On the way, Chen Zhao received a call. It was another call from the handsome guy. "Chen Zhao, I changed my ride recently. Look at my new ride." Qin Zhao saw a huge ray, commonly known as a devil ray. However, the devil ray under the handsome guy's feet was clearly dozens of times bigger than a regular one. Of course, compared to the super big black dragon from before, this stingray seemed a little small. Handsome, where's your black dragon mount? It's too flashy riding the ancestral dragon's projection. I've been more low-key recently. Qin Zhao was speechless. This devil ray wasn't that low-key either. I got a new car too. Qin Zhao chatted with the handsome guy. At the same time, he sent a photo of his new car. Next time, bring me one too. I want this car too. My car can't fly. I want it anyway. Okay. Oh, let me ask you something. What? You know Belial, right? Yes. Is Belial male or female? I mean, according to human standards, he's the most primitive gender. Don't tell me that his gender is meaningless. I think he's female. Why do you want to know? I think I found something that belonged to her. After getting the handsome guy's answer, Qin Zhao was completely sure that the demon god pillar was one of the 72 demon god pillars. The demon god pillar that she left in the human world, Qin Zhao said. And I even dreamed of her. Weird. Why would you dream of her? The handsome guy was also confused. If it's you and someone dreams of you, can you find the dreamer? I can't, the handsome boy said. Then I shouldn't be dreaming. You used the demon god pillar to infiltrate Belial's consciousness, said the handsome boy. This was the most reasonable explanation. Because dreaming was an act of self-consciousness, the people and things in the dream were all fake. So if it was a dream, the person in the dream shouldn't have self-consciousness, let alone look at him like that. Therefore, the little handsome guy immediately guessed the only possibility. But the gap between you and her is so big, how did you manage to infiltrate her consciousness? Qin Zhao could be imagined as a thief who had successfully snuck into the Ministry of Defense and stolen something from inside. From the perspective of probability, this was almost impossible. If Belial's self-consciousness was so easily invaded, then Belial wouldn't be the great demon king. Qin Zhao didn't understand either. But one good thing about Qin Zhao was that he didn't want to think about things he couldn't understand. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't figure it out. By the way, handsome, what color car do you want? White. I'll bring it to you next time I go to hell. Qin Zhao paused and said, By the way, I want you to know the spell to imprison the demon in the demon god pillar, right? Yes, I'll teach you the spell, the handsome boy said. Also, you need to be careful that the demon you imprison can't be stronger than you. You also have to beat the demon until he's unconscious. That'll make it easier to imprison him. Just then, there was the sound of a police siren. Qin Zhao glanced at the rearview mirror, his expression gloomy. I can't talk to you anymore. I have trouble. Do you need my help? How can you help me? Kill him and I'll torture his soul. No need. That's all for now. Qin Zhao immediately hung up and watched as Sharon's police car stopped by the roadside. You bought a new car? Sharon asked, studying his car. Yes. Is buying a new car against the traffic rules? It's not illegal to buy a new car, but it's against the rules to answer a call while driving. Here's your ticket. Also, it's not your first time answering a call while driving. I'll deduct 1 point. In California, there is the same penalty point system as in the US. Qin Zhao's expression was helpless. It seemed that every time he broke the traffic rules, Sharon would appear. Sometimes, Qin Zhao even suspected that Sharon was following him. Nevertheless, Qin Zhao followed the traffic rules most of the time. However, he had no choice but to answer a call while driving. Your car is so beautiful. After giving Qin Zhao a ticket, Sharon started admiring his new car. Qin Zhao's expression was lifeless. He didn't want to talk to Sharon at all. Qin Zhao remembered that Sharon had a sports car that was several times more expensive than his. It seemed to be a limited edition Pagani. Do you want a drink? I don't have time today. I have to go to school. Qin Zhao and Sharon seemed to have formed a tacit understanding. Every time Sharon stopped Qinzhao, they would find a nearby cafe to have a cup of coffee. Okay, I'll drink next time I see you. Sharon, did you put some tracking device on me? Why do you always appear before me every time I break the rules? I also want to ask you if you break the rules in front of me every time. Sharon rolled her eyes. Qinzhao didn't stay for long. After saying goodbye to Sharon, he went straight to school. The Porsche 918 was quite eye-catching. On the way to the school parking lot, a few girls threw flirtatious glances at Qinzhao. Every time Qinzhao went to the swimming pool, there would always be a lot of spectators. There were especially many male spectators. Qinzhao suspected that the boys were here to see the girls' swimsuits. Qinzhao saw that Zabi was still training the other students on the school swim team. When Zabi saw Qinzhao, his eyes were filled with resentment. He felt that Qinzhao was blocking his way. Unfortunately, Qinzhao completely ignored Zabi. In another pool, Evely was practicing alone. Hi, Evely. Chen, you're finally here. I thought you were going to stand me up again. I said that I'll take 2 days off. I always keep my word. Okay, hurry up and train. I've waited long enough. How far did you swim this morning? About 5,000 meters. Chapter 11:24. Evely was already used to Qinzhao's rough training method. But Qinzhao's training method was very effective. As long as Evely cooperated with Qinzhao wholeheartedly, there would always be results. She had doubts in the beginning, but now, she no longer had any doubts. The only thing she doubted was that Qinzhao's training time was too short. After lunch, Qinzhao planned to leave. Evely, you need to eat more fat and protein. Your fat ratio is a bit low. It's not good for your stamina. Usually, a normal person's fat ratio was around 10, while an athlete's was below 5. There was also a type of bodybuilder. They injected a lot of cholesterol, which resulted in a very low fat ratio. Their muscles would look very exaggerated in the short term, but if there was too much cholesterol in the body, it would be very harmful to the body. Bodybuilders had exaggerated muscles, but their stamina, endurance, and explosive power couldn't be compared to other athletes. Evely's fat ratio was already below 3. Fat could actually provide a lot of stamina. The lower the body fat, the better. Athletes usually pursued the most perfect and standard ratio of fat to muscle. Also, you can come to my house tomorrow and train at Mirror Lake. Why? Evely asked, confused. Usually, swimmers rarely trained in water. The environment is good, Qinzhao said calmly. Evely rolled her eyes. This guy was just too lazy to go out. Mirror Lake contains some substances that are very beneficial to the human body. It can greatly stimulate and increase one's stamina and cell activity, Qinzhao said. Fei Lai and Zherlin soak in the lake every day. Evely's eyes brightened. Qinzhao definitely had the best arrangements for his girlfriend and child. Since even they soaked in the lake every day, it would definitely be very beneficial for him. Does it mean that the more I soak, the better it is for my body? You can understand it that way, but human cells can't infinitely increase their activity or absorb those beneficial substances. The more and longer I soak, the worse the effects will be. Did you buy Mirror Lake because of this? Evely thought that Qinzhao had chosen a place that was useless in other people's eyes because of his unique vision. Sort of. Actually, Qinzhao only liked Mirror Lake's environment. That was all. In the afternoon, Qinzhao went to treat Kohler. Kohler's recovery from his injuries was very good, and he was now able to carry out rehabilitation exercises. In less than a week, Kohler would be able to return to the field. A few days ago, Kohler took the time to go to UCLA. He gave the players of the basketball club a lesson. When he came out of Kohler's house, Depp had already transferred the money to his account. Tens of millions of dollars made Qinzhao very happy. Qinzhao went straight to the headquarters of the association. He hadn't been there for a few days. Of course, the supernatural organization only needed to report when there was a mission. Normally, everyone was busy with their own things. For example, an elite The association even bought a huge insurance policy for every member of the association. However, when everyone was free, they would still go to the association. After all, everyone wanted to improve their strength. Thus, they all wanted to cultivate in the Tower of Trials. The supernatural organization was quite famous. However, their reputations were not very good. The main reason was that the supernatural organization had been making a fool of itself in the past 20 years. They had been weak for a long time, and it was difficult for the people of the supernatural world to shake off their preconceived notions. Of course, the association was too lazy to correct people's thoughts. Actually, it was very easy to change people's minds. They just had to report the results of the association last year. However, the people of the association had the same opinion. They were just pretending to be weak. Otherwise, if the association had any enemies in the future, they would be even more careful. For example, the family, from back then. If the family had been more careful, they might have been able to severely damage the association with their abilities. Thus, the members felt that they should be low-key and do things in a high-profile manner. As soon as Chen Zhao's car stopped at the entrance, Jalanash appeared before him excitedly. "President, I passed the first round." Jalanash's eyes were shining. "Really? Good job." Chen Zhao could tell that Jalanash wanted his praise. Thus, Chen Zhao's performance was also very exaggerated. This greatly satisfied Jalanash's vanity. Chen Zhao realized that Jalanash's magic power seemed to have increased quite a bit. Chen Zhao was surprised. Jalanash's magic power increase was too much. "The association's magic power potion is finished?" "Yes." Jalanash nodded and casually revealed her golden ring. "Chairman, my magic power has reached 449. Roland nodded and said, "President, my magic power has reached 449. The magic power potion this time is so effective?" Chen Zhao was surprised. "It's mainly because I didn't care about the high-grade materials," Jalanash said. "But Mr. West said that there was a small mistake when making the magic potion. Otherwise, the effect would have been better," Jalanash said. "Okay, try to pass the second level as soon as possible. I have high hopes for you." Chen Zhao patted Jalanash's shoulder. "I'll go in first. Where's West now?" Chen Zhao felt that it was a pity. He'd already taken the potion. It could only be used once. It was ineffective the second time. In his office, Chen Zhao entered the headquarters and pushed open West's office. "President, you're here. West, is the potion done?" "Yes, it's done." "President, how many do you need?" "I don't need it. I've already used it before, so I don't need it anymore," Chen Zhao said. "Oh, prepare a few more for Gaia. Jalanash could increase her magic power by several times, so Gaia's increase should be even greater." "Okay." West nodded. "Oh, President, there's something I want to discuss with you." "Go ahead." "I'm planning to recruit 2 more members," West said. "Why? We already have a lot of people in the association, right?" "It's mainly because we already have combat and logistics, but we don't have healing-type spiritualists or alchemists. This time, we completely relied on Alice flipping through books while making the potion. The final product's effect was actually reduced," West said. "The magic power potion is still the most basic alchemy product. Alice can barely do it. If we want to make more complicated alchemy products in the future, we can't do it without a professional alchemist. The other thing is a healing-type spiritualist." Chapter 1125. Of course, West knew that Chen Zhao was a doctor. Indeed, Chen Zhao could treat most injuries. But more importantly, Chen Zhao's combat ability was too outstanding. Most of the time, Chen Zhao was the main fighting force. When Chen Zhao fought, he couldn't treat the injured members at the same time. Therefore, the effects of a healer were obvious. Moreover, Chen Zhao didn't know how to heal quickly or suppress pain. This was also what West considered. Actually, most people in the association had complicated magic systems. For example, Qin Zhao was a typical example. His magic system was very complicated. Next was Jolin Ash. She majored in elemental magic and mixed in other magic systems. She also knew some healing spells. Although Helis had the bloodline of death, she also knew 1 or 2 normal spells. The most simple ones were Patya and Moor. Patya was a shaman's battle dance. She only knew this magic system, while Moor was a clone magic. Norma and Gaia were pure awakened bloodlines. Therefore, when West heard that Qin Zhao refused to find a healer, he immediately argued with Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao couldn't win against West. In the end, he was convinced. Whatever. Do as you see fit, Qin Zhao said helplessly. Oh, I need you to investigate some information for me. What information? Are there any ancient bronze pillars around the world? West was shocked. President, there's one under our headquarters. Qin Zhao's eyes widened. He looked at West in shock. There's a bronze pillar under our association? Yeah, when we bought this place, the previous owner brought me to see this copper pillar, but I didn't find anything wrong with it. What kind of bronze pillar? How big? How long? Never mind, take me there. Qin Zhao didn't expect that there would be a bronze pillar right under his nose in the association's headquarters. West brought Qin Zhao to the basement 3 floors. The basement was a warehouse. The second floor was a dungeon. The third floor was originally used as a warehouse, but it wasn't used yet. But when Qin Zhao reached the lower 3 floors, he only saw a few pillars. He didn't see any bronze pillars. The construction team that the president hired found that this copper pillar was too much of a hindrance, and they couldn't move it, so they built the outer shell of the copper pillar with concrete. This is the pillar, West said, pointing to the pillar in the middle. Qin Zhao peeled off the concrete shell, revealing the copper pillar inside. It was indeed the demon god pillar. Qin Zhao had an idea. If I pull out this pillar, will it affect the structure of the headquarters? That won't happen. This pillar was originally not part of the plan. It's not responsible for bearing any weight. Qin Zhao glanced at the ceiling above him. First, he removed all the concrete covering the copper pillars. Then, he wrapped his arms around the copper pillar and pulled it outwards. West was used to Qin Zhao's strange strength. Very quickly, a hole appeared in the ceiling. Qin Zhao pulled it out bit by bit. West asked in confusion. President, the previous construction team said that they couldn't pull the bronze pillar out even with a crane. How did you pull it out? I don't know, Qin Zhao said. The pillar was heavy, but it was within Qin Zhao's bearable range. He didn't feel that it was too heavy. Logically speaking, the crane should have enough power to pull the pillar out. But Qin Zhao didn't hesitate. Instead, he pulled the pillar out bit by bit. This copper pillar was slightly longer than the previous one, but relatively speaking, it was thinner. After pulling the entire pillar out, Qin Zhao put it in his spatial ring. President, what's the use of that pillar? Have you heard of Solomon's 72 demon god pillars? West's eyes widened. He stared at Qin Zhao in shock. President, you're saying that this pillar is one of Solomon's 72 demon god pillars? I think so. I found one the night before yesterday. What about the demon god? I need a spell, Qin Zhao said. Let's go outside first. I'll try to summon it. When Qin Zhao and West arrived at the empty space outside the headquarters, Qin Zhao took the demon god pillar out again and placed it flat on the ground. Qin Zhao studied the incantations and patterns on the demon god pillar. The pattern on the demon god pillar was a leopard-headed familiar. The leopard-headed familiar was sitting cross-legged on the ground with a bow placed horizontally between its legs. Badalu Adawa! Qin Zhao started chanting. Gradually, the demon god pillar released a wisp of green smoke. A tall familiar with a leopard's head and human body gradually walked out of the green smoke. West looked at the familiar in shock. Disbelief was written all over his face. The leopard-headed familiar's chest bulged. It was wrapped in animal skin. Its limbs didn't look like humans. They had sharp claws. On its back was a 3-meter-long bow and a quiver with 12 arrows in it. The familiar looked at Qin Zhao. It took 2 steps toward him, and then knelt on one knee. Qin Zhao was on guard because the familiar didn't have a collar. Agars, I pledge my loyalty to you, master. The familiar spoke in demon language. President, what did he say? Qin Zhao didn't answer West's question. Instead, he asked in demon language, Don't you know the human language? I can learn, if that's your order. Then learn it quickly, Qin Zhao said. West, she's Agars. Teach her the language. Huh! She doesn't know the human language. Teach her. Oh. Just then, Adu saw Agars. President, what's this big guy? He asked curiously. She's Agars, a demon god, Qin Zhao said. Oh, Agars, do you have any special abilities? My bow and arrow can hit any target I lock onto, Agars said. How? By having the magical aura I remember. In other words, if the target doesn't have a magical aura, I can't lock onto them, right? Yes. You fight enemies with bows and arrows? And my claws, Agars said expressionlessly. Agars said expressionlessly. Or perhaps Qin Zhao couldn't understand her expression. Anyway, Qin Zhao felt that Agars' tone was cold and her expression was cool. Try to attack me? No. Familiars aren't allowed to attack their master. I allow it. Chapter 11:26. West, you try Agars? Agars turned his head and looked at Qin Zhao. Should I kill him? No, no. Qin Zhao hurriedly stopped Agars. Forget it. Don't try. With Agars' personality, who knew if she wouldn't know how to control her strength and directly blow up West's head? West, forget it. It was too tiring to speak human language and demon language to Agars at the same time. Agars, you'd better use your bow and arrow to find something to shoot at. Anything? Can I shoot whoever I want? Hearing Agars' tone, Qin Zhao had a bad feeling. Don't shoot living things or buildings, Qin Zhao added. Qin Zhao added. Just shoot at the surface of the lake. There are fish in the lake, Agars said. I told you to shoot. Don't talk nonsense. Qin Zhao was getting impatient. Do you want me to shoot as hard as I can? All right, shoot with all your strength. They came to the lake. Agars picked up his bow, knocked an arrow, and pulled the string. Agars' bow was already pulled to a full moon. Everyone stared at Agars. She'd been preparing for too long. Qin Zhao checked the time. Agars had been pulling the bow for 30 seconds. Just then, Agars' hand loosened slightly. The arrow left the bowstring and instantly pierced the surface of the lake 100 meters away. Boom! A huge water pillar shot into the sky, as if a torpedo had been detonated in the lake. Everyone stared at Agars, dumbfounded. It was almost as powerful as a small rocket, right? Soon, a large number of dead fish floated to the surface of the lake. Qin Zhao was secretly shocked. Agars' attack was really powerful. However, it took too long to charge up. It needed more than 30 seconds. Agars, can't you attack quickly? Yes, but I can't make it so powerful, Agars said. Agars said, I have a lockdown mode, a group attack mode, and a killing mode. That was the killing mode I used just now. What's group attack mode like? Agars took out another arrow and knocked it on the bowstring. This time, it didn't take as long to charge up. It only took 10 seconds. Qin Zhao was confused. It was only an arrow. How could it be a group attack? The arrows suddenly turned into dozens of arrows in midair, and then fell to the ground like meteors. Boom, boom, boom. Each arrow exploded like a grenade. This AoE attack mode was like dozens of grenades exploding at the same time. The entire lake was a mess, and the water was tumbling and turbid. West was amazed and secretly delighted. With Agars joining, the association's strength had increased significantly. What about lockdown mode? Lockdown mode can only be used on living creatures. West, try Agars' lockdown mode. Guild leader, she won't kill me, right? No, she's very obedient. All right. West was still worried and looked at Agars with trepidation. Regardless of whether Agars understood or not, he begged for mercy. Agars, be gentle. Agars knocked another arrow and shot it at West. Chen Zhao was shocked too. West was so frightened that he used his slow field. In an instant, Agars's arrow stopped in front of West for a second. West covered his head and scurried away. Only then did the arrow advance again. But the arrow was like a homing missile. It clearly turned around and chased after West. West looked back and saw the arrow chasing after him. Right now, West could no longer use the slow field. The arrow was about to hit him. Suddenly, the arrow exploded into a cloud of white mist, enveloping West. When the white mist dissipated, West's body was covered in a layer of what looked like frost. West was rooted to the spot like a statue. He also maintained his running posture. Agars's variety of attacks surprised Chen Zhao, but what surprised him more wasn't Agars. In Chen Zhao's mind, Agars's ability was inevitable. Instead, it was West who used the slow field in that instant. He actually managed to make the arrows stop. In the past, West could at most make people slow down in the field, but his power seemed to have increased a lot. More and more people came to the association. They all knew Agars's identity without blinking. On the other hand, Aduz explained to them one by one. The seal that Agars put on West lasted for half an hour before West was able to escape. Everyone, get to know each other. Chen Zhao had Agars and the others recognize each other. Everyone was curious about Agars's strange appearance. Agars doesn't understand the human language. Communicate with her more often and let her understand it as soon as possible. Agars, come with me. I have some questions for you. Agars followed behind Chen Zhao. Agars, are you Belial's subordinate? Chen Zhao asked. King Belial sealed me in the demon god pillar. I'm not his subordinate. Whoever has the demon god pillar is the master. Agars's words made Chen Zhao even more certain that Agars was one of the 72 demon god pillars. Do you know a crocodile monster? He's also a servant of the demon god pillar. Celios. He's the representative of the manic side. What's the manic side? Back then, King Belial lent the 72 of us to Solomon. The 72 are divided into the neutral, manic, and submissive. The manic side doesn't think that humans have the right to control us, so they aren't willing to cooperate with Solomon's command. That's why Solomon forged a chain for the manic side and the manic side. What about you? Are you a neutral or a submissive? I'm a submissive. Agars's answer didn't surprise Chen Zhao. Then what's the neutral side's position? They're loyal to King Belial, but they don't reject human domination. After all, to us, human life is too short. Us, on the other hand, have nearly infinite life. What's the use of the chain? Can a chain make the manic side's servant obey? No. The chain's use is for the master of the demon god pillar to borrow the magic of the tamed monster. Chen Zhao nodded. No wonder the crocodile monster could break the chain. Do you know where the other demon god pillars are? No. Before Solomon died, he split us up and sent us to different corners of the world. Chapter 11:27. I don't know, Agars said. I don't know what happened either. Do you have any restrictions on your movements? No, but I can't be more than 5 miles away from the demon god pillar. One last question. Can you change your tone? Agars still stared at Chen Zhao coldly. Chen Zhao had a rough understanding. The demon god pillar couldn't completely restrain a familiar's will. Every familiar had its own personality. The only restriction was that the familiar couldn't attack the user. After staying in the association for 2 hours, Chen Zhao went to Steven's set. Today, Steven was filming an outdoor scene. It was the building where Steven and Rasfa had been kidnapped. Because the kidnapping had gone viral on the internet, the abandoned building in the suburbs had become a tourist spot for many people. Steven had bought the land a long time ago. He knew very well that after the movie was released, the value of the land would increase again. Steven wasn't just an excellent director. He was also an excellent businessman. He knew when he needed to invest and when he couldn't. When Qinzhao arrived at the set, Stephen was explaining the scene to a few actors. Two of them were Wang He and Qin Ke, but Qinzhao remembered that Qin Ke didn't have any scenes here. Of course, this was based on the actual situation. Qinzhao hadn't read Stephen's script carefully, so he didn't know if the plot had been changed. The other two main actors were two old men. They should be playing Rasfa and Stephen respectively. In the script, they were friends who loved each other and killed each other for life. They were set to fall in love with the same woman when they were young. Later, the woman married Stephen. Later, Rasfa became a big boss and Stephen became a big director. However, the two were like enemies in the beginning. They schemed and slandered each other. Qinzhao's bodyguard was Rasfa's adopted son and then Stephen's bodyguard. Qinzhao didn't know if Stephen had set up this character to satisfy his own bad taste. Qinzhao looked at Stephen from afar and didn't disturb him. Stephen seemed to sense something. He turned his head and looked in Qinzhao's direction. "Jerry, come and film the later scenes for me." Stephen called the assistant director over. Qinzhao recognized Jerry. He was also an important assistant in Stephen's team. Unexpectedly, he was promoted to assistant director this time. Jerry knew James's path. He knew that James had gotten the chance because he was close to Qinzhao. So, whenever Qinzhao came to the set, Jerry would come and greet him whenever he was free. Stephen walked over. "Chen, why are you here today?" "I'm looking for Gaia." "By the way, where's Gaia? Why don't I see her?" "Gaia has gone to deal with some trouble," Stephen said. "Trouble? Did someone cause trouble for your crew?" Qinzhao asked. "No, it's just the paparazzi who want to take photos of the crew," Stephen said. It was also because Stephen's movie had received too much attention. Therefore, too many entertainment media outlets wanted to dig up the latest insider information about Stephen's movie. Some paparazzi even crossed the mountains, trying to enter the set from other directions. These paparazzi are so annoying. There was even a paparazzi who snuck into the set and ran into the actress' dressing room. Gaia was furious. After listening to Stephen's explanation, Qinzhao was enlightened. Gaia was the only one who could solve this problem. "How's the filming going?" Qinzhao asked. "Not bad. That Chinese actor is okay." If Wang He knew that Stephen had a good review, he would probably wake up laughing in his dreams. Of course, it was only good because Stephen was filming a commercial film, not an art film. Acting only required the feeling. It wasn't like an art film where one's gaze had to convey a lot of content. Just then, Gaia returned to the set. "Hey Qin, how come you're free today?" Qinzhao glanced at Stephen. "Did you guys discuss to use the same question to open the show?" "You guys talk. I'm going to watch the scene." Stephen bade farewell to Gaia and left. Qinzhao took out 2 potions and gave them to Gaia. "These are yours. You can't use them separately or all at once. If there's a long interval, the second time will lose its effect. You can only increase your magic power once." "Got it. Are you here to give me the potions? Also, we have a special member." "Special member?" Gaia looked up at Qinzhao. "What kind of special? You've heard of Solomon's 72 demon god pillars, right? I had a university education after all." Gaia rolled her eyes. "There is a demon god pillar in our association. I summoned a familiar called Agars." "Oh? I'll go take a look after the crew's work is done." Hearing about the familiar, Gaia was also interested. The next day, Evely came to Qinzhao's house. She also brought a small gift for Feilai. After all, she was a guest. Evely's social skills were quite good. Little Jerlin had seen Evely once, but it was 2 or 3 months ago. She couldn't remember Evely at all. She just tilted her head and looked at Evely. But Jerlin wasn't afraid of strangers at all. Some kids would hide behind their elders when they saw strangers. But soon, she lost interest in Evely. Little Jerlin didn't even bother to wear clothes at home. She just ran around in diapers or jumped into the lake to play. There were no open-crotch pants in America. Even kids weren't allowed to wear them. There was once a Chinese woman who took her child for a walk in the park for the first time. A passerby called the police because her child was wearing open-crotch pants. Of course, this was a difference in customs. You couldn't say which was better or worse. Everyone had their own pros and cons. Some kids in America were used to diapers, so they still wore them when they were in their teens. They still needed them when they slept at night. Without them, they would wet the bed. But open-crotch pants weren't all good. They could make it easier for kids to pee, but they weren't hygienic. However, open-crotch pants were not hygienic. After all, a child's lower body was exposed, and it was easy to cause some infections. In short, the laws in the United States were very strict on the protection of children. In China, parents were the ones who were overly protective of kids. Chapter 11:28. Before Evely entered the water, Jerlin jumped in first. And what made her feel strange was that Jerlin actually swam to the center of the lake alone. How far was it from the center of the lake? It was at least 1,000 meters away. Most adults wouldn't be able to swim that far. But Jerlin swam more than 1,000 meters by herself. "Chen, is Jerlin that fit? She's been soaking in the water every day since she came to this house," Chen Zhao said. Evely had heard Chen Zhao say that the lake water here had something beneficial to the human body. It could greatly improve a person's body. It seemed that Jerlin had been soaking in the lake since she was young. Her body was much stronger than other children her age. After all, Evely had never seen a child less than half a year old with such good stamina. But normal families probably wouldn't let their children play in the water. When Jerlin played in the water, the family's pets would always follow. Ever since Evely had seen Jerlin, she'd always had pets by her side. Black Ma and White Ma were always by little Jerlin's side. They were like full-time nannies, moving from land to water. "Chen, is Jerlin going to be a swimmer in the future?" "If she's willing," Chen Zhao said. "I won't choose any path for her." Evely really envied a father like Chen Zhao. Compared to her father, if she hadn't made a name for herself in the swimming world, her future would probably be fixed too. But now, Evely was completely out of her father's control. The price was that she had to be a free spokesperson for the family business. Evely's income now was probably not even comparable to her family business. She earned hundreds of millions of dollars from events, advertisements, and endorsements every year. This was also a level that only top sports stars could reach. "Go into the water first. Swim 5 laps in a straight line," Chen Zhao said. "You don't have to rush. Just enjoy the lake water. Eat at my place for lunch." After Evely went into the water, Chen Zhao and Fei Lai laid on the recliners in the front yard and basked in the sun. The temperature was a bit high today. It was already 28 degrees at 9 in the morning. "Chen, is this how you coach?" Fei Lai was speechless. "What's the point of me going into the water?" Chen Zhao had already swum 20 laps in the morning. "By the way, I found another demon god pillar yesterday. I'll take you to see it in the afternoon." "He found the second demon god pillar so quickly?" "I didn't really find it. It has always been in the headquarters of the association, but I didn't pay attention to it. Yesterday, I suddenly found a demon god pillar in the headquarters." To be honest, even Chen Zhao felt that it was too much of a coincidence. "What is that demon god like?" "Wait, let's not talk about it. Let me see for myself. If you tell me, it won't feel fresh anymore." After a morning of training, Evely had a great appetite. Moreover, the lunch Chen Zhao had prepared today was all suitable for Evely. This was a feast for Evely. Evely even felt that the meal had made her more energetic. In the afternoon, Chen Zhao trained Evely for another 2 hours and then sent her away. Then, he brought Fei Lai and Jerlin to the headquarters of the association. After entering the headquarters, Fei Lai saw the demon god pillar standing on the empty ground. "Where's the demon god? Where is it?" "I don't know. I'll ask." Chen Zhao brought Fei Lai into the building and stopped Patya, who was walking toward them. "Patya, where's Agar's?" "Mr. West is teaching Agar's English. He's in the meeting room. Fei Lai turned to look at Qin Zhao. What the hell was English? Qin Zhao brought Fei Lai to the meeting room and saw Agar's tall figure squeezed in. Even though she was sitting on the ground, she still had to lower her head. If she raised her head, she would touch the chandelier above her head. West stood in front, a blackboard hanging in front of him. Hello? Agar said to Qin Zhao. This was the only word she'd learned today. Chen, is she the demon god? Yes. Fei Lai looked at Agar's curiously. Jerlin, who was in her arms, was even more surprised. Hug, hug, hug! Jerlin wanted to leave Fei Lai's arms and jump into Agar's arms. Fei Lai put Jerlin on the ground. Jerlin was already on Agar's body, climbing onto Agar's chest. Then Jerlin lifted Agar's hide to cover her chest and opened her mouth to bite. Qin Zhao covered his head with his hand, speechless. The scene was very awkward. But what was unexpected was that Agar seemed very calm. Carefully holding Jerlin with his claws, he pulled her away from his chest. Master, is this your child? Agar asked. Yes. She has an extraordinary life. Her future is pure and bright. No matter who it was, they would feel proud when someone praised their child. Qin Zhao was no exception. He was very happy with Agar's words. This is for you. Qin Zhao tossed a perfect demonic crystal to Agar's. Agar's accepted the crystal. She didn't expect Qin Zhao to be so generous as to give her something so valuable. So this is your wife? Yes. The child in her stomach will be filled with golden light. You can see the future? I can see the light of the future. It's my special ability, Agar said. Everyone will have different colors of light. What about me? Chaotic colors. Countless colors interweave together. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. I can't tell good from bad with complicated colors. Does every tamed monster have a special ability? Every tamed monster in the 72 demon god pillars has a special ability, Agar said. What's Celio's special ability? He can obtain magic from any environment with temperature. His magic is almost limitless. Wasn't this ability the same as Lisa? Lisa could also absorb and release heat. However, Lisa couldn't be like Celio's. She couldn't feel any pain even when her body was ignited. According to Agar's, she could borrow the magic of the tamed monster through the chain. If Celio's was still alive, then he could use this characteristic of Celio's to obtain nearly unlimited mana. Chapter 11:29. Jerlin was tired after playing for a while at the headquarters. There were no animals here. She wanted to go home. Qin Zhao and Fei Lai could only take Jerlin home. On the way home, Qin Zhao received Laura's call. Hey Chun, can you come over? Johnny's hurt. Qin Zhao was stunned. Then he immediately said, Okay, I'll be right there. After Qin Zhao hung up, Fei Lai asked, What's wrong? Risfar's hurt, Qin Zhao said. What's the situation? I don't know the details. Qin Zhao turned and drove toward Beverly Hills. 10 minutes later, Qin Zhao arrived at Risfar's house. The security guard immediately opened the door for him. Laura stood at the door, waiting for Qin Zhao's arrival. After Qin Zhao and Fei Lai got out, Jerlin immediately yelled in Fei Lai's arms. Auntie Laura, hug! Laura squeezed out a smile and caught Jerlin. Laura, how's Johnny? Johnny was attacked by a shark. Qin Zhao sucked in a breath of cold air. Take me to him. When Qin Zhao entered Risfar's bedroom, he realized that Del was there too. Qin, you're here. Qin Zhao nodded and turned to look at Risfar on the bed. He wasn't as bloody as Qin Zhao had imagined, but he looked really weak. Didn't you say that Johnny was attacked by a shark? Johnny and I were surfing on the beach, Del said. His surfboard was hit by a shark and Johnny was hit by a rock at the bottom of the sea. Thankfully, Qin Zhao heaved a sigh of relief. It was just a bump. He wasn't bitten by a shark directly. That was a good thing. Usually, when a shark bit someone, the shark's teeth would cause great damage to the victim. If the main artery was bitten, Not even an ambulance would be able to get there in time. Move aside, Qin Zhao said. I'll check. Qin Zhao lifted Risfar's blanket to check his injuries. There was a very obvious bruise on the left side of his abdomen to his upper ribs. Qin Zhao reached out and pressed down. The unconscious Risfar suddenly screamed. Ah! Laura heard Risfar scream and immediately ran to the door. It's okay. Laura, stay with Fei Lai outside, Qin Zhao comforted. Qin Zhao looked at Sfar. You're awake? Chun, why are you here? Be gentle, Risfar said weakly. If you get hurt next time, call an ambulance first, not me, Qin Zhao said in annoyance. Doctors aren't as insured as you, Del said. The ambulance came faster than me. Qin Zhao glared at Del. Johnny isn't just injured. He also has water in his lungs. Is Johnny okay? He won't be able to walk for half a month. Qin Zhao started treating Risfar. Qin Zhao took out a syringe and pierced it into the lung. Then he started extracting the lung fluid. The next time you get hurt, call an ambulance immediately. I happen to be outside this time, so it's not far from here. I got it, Del replied, trying to cope. Qin Zhao started setting Risfar's bones. His ribs weren't comminuted. Instead, they were dislocated due to the impact, so it wasn't difficult to treat. However, there was some muscle damage. Risfar endured the pain until Qin Zhao stopped. Then he complained. Chun, can you give me some anesthetic? Where did you meet the shark while surfing? Shoal. That's one of the few places with high waves. Oh, where's Ronnie and Vera? Why aren't they here? Laura was afraid that they'd see their dad get hurt, Del said. She sent them to my house and let them play with Faith. Good thing it's not fatal. Qin Zhao heaved a sigh of relief. Oh, I bought a beach. I'm building a villa there now. The waves are pretty high too. You can go surfing there. What? You bought a beach? When did you buy it? Why didn't you tell us? Del and Risfar's reactions were intense. Are you selling the house at Mirror Lake? Fuck off. Don't even think about Mirror Lake. I still want to live there. Qin Zhao cut off their thoughts. Where did you buy the beach? It's in the direction of Sandro National Park. It's just across the road. I heard that there are a lot of sharks there. Risfar had just been attacked by a shark, so he was still traumatized. After I move there, I'll chase the sharks away. How? Del asked. Idiot, Amon, of course. Thinking of Amon's terrifying size, the two didn't have any more doubts. Amon was probably the largest creature in the ocean. No, he was the largest creature on Earth. To be honest, if Amon was here, they would feel an unparalleled safe haven. Just then, Laura walked to the door. Chen, how's Johnny? He can talk and laugh. He should be fine. Stay here for dinner. I'll ask the kitchen to prepare dinner. Okay. Laura didn't just want to be the host. She was also worried about Risfar's injuries. As long as Qin Zhao was here, she would feel much more at ease. Soon, Fisher, Ronnie, and Vera came too. Because the three girls were sent to Mirror Lake by bodyguards every few days, Jerlin was very familiar with them. The four little girls could be said to be the four heavenly kings. Whether it was at Mirror Lake or this manor, they were simply lawless. The only non-human creature in the manor, Laugher, was already tormented by the four girls. Fei Lai and Ronnie sat in the yard and chatted. Ronnie taught Fei Lai many things from her experience. Of course, she mainly talked about things that pregnant women needed to pay attention to. As for food, Ronnie didn't talk at all. With Qin Zhao by her side, she didn't need to tell them what they could and couldn't eat. Ronnie was even planning to have a second child, so she asked Qin Zhao what to eat. Qin Zhao even arranged a recipe for Ronnie. What to eat in the first month, what to eat in the second month, all the way to the 9th month. For example, when to have intercourse, and what to eat to increase the chances of getting pregnant. Qin Zhao was Ronnie and Risfar's most trusted person, so they were busy making babies too. Qin Zhao, Risfar, and Del chatted in the room. Chun, do you plan to marry Fei Lai? Of course. Why do you ask? Chapter 11:30. Dell and I opened a hotel together. It's going to open next month. You, Fei Lai, and Jerlin can come to the opening ceremony. Okay. Chen Zhao didn't reject. Chen, I heard that China has feng shui, right? Dell looked at Chen Zhao, his eyes sparkling. Before he finished, Chen Zhao could guess what he was planning. I don't know feng shui, but I can introduce you to someone, Chen Zhao said. Chen Zhao thought of Li Qing. Li Qing looked like a typical Chinese woman. She wasn't very educated, but she was hardworking and honest. But Chen Zhao knew Li Qing's real identity. She was a warlock. Li Qing knew feng shui and physiognomy. Oh, why do you suddenly want to know feng shui? Chen Zhao was confused. Our hotel was a bankrupt hotel, and we bought it at a low price. Apparently, before that, someone committed suicide in the hotel. At the same time, there were supernatural incidents. Then we found a priest, and after the priest walked around the hotel, he said that the location of the hotel was very strange, and it was best to find a Chinese feng shui master to take a look. You're the only Chinese we know, so we thought of you, Dell explained. How about this? When you're free, I'll bring the feng shui master I know to your hotel, but I can't guarantee that she'll be able to help you. When will you be free in the near future? I have a lot of time. My friend can spare some time too, Chen Zhao said. It depends on you too. Risfar can't get out of bed for now. Dell, you can take us there. I can go any time too, Dell answered casually. I said at night. At night? Why? Didn't you say that supernatural incidents happened in the hotel? How can you see them in the day? It's more likely to happen at night. You're crazy. There's no one in the hotel right now. Won't you be scared to death if you go to such a big hotel at night? It's not like you're alone. I have my friend with you. Can I not go? If you're scared, you can stay at the door. I'll go in with my friend. Chen Zhao didn't force Dell to go in. He just needed him to lead the way. That was all. Oh, why do you want to open a hotel? Chen Zhao asked curiously. Mainly because Dell wants to do something, Risfar said. That's why he's interested in that hotel. However, he doesn't have enough cash on hand, so he dragged me along. I saw that the hotel's facilities and location are pretty good. It doesn't require too much investment, and the price is rather low. It's a pretty good choice as an investment. Didn't you know that the hotel was in trouble before you bought it? I know, but I didn't pay too much attention to it. The price of that hotel was too low. When did you realize there was a problem? We wanted to ask the original hotel manager to come back and continue working for us, but the hotel manager refused to come back no matter what. He even said some strange things and told us to be careful. The two of us felt a little uncomfortable, so we went to find a priest. Where did you find that priest? He's an old priest. I was introduced to him by someone else. How about tomorrow night? So fast? Isn't it better to solve the problem earlier? I need to prepare, Dell said hesitantly. What do you need to prepare? Mentally prepare. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. The three chatted until Laura came in and called them for dinner. Risfar still couldn't sit at the table, so he could only watch Chen Zhao and Dell leave. During dinner, little Jerlin, Faith, Ronnie, and Vera played hard. When they got home, little Jerlin, Faith, Ronnie, and Vera had a life-and-death farewell. It was as if they would never see each other again. The four children cried their hearts out. Chen, why didn't you say anything? Are you tired? No, Johnny and Dell opened a hotel together. Their new hotel seems to have encountered a supernatural incident. I'm going to check it out tomorrow night. It's just a supernatural incident. Why are you so worried? To Fei Lai, a small supernatural incident was nothing to Chen Zhao. The problem this time might not be as simple as a supernatural incident. If it's just a few evil spirits, it can be easily solved. It might be related to feng shui. Oh? Feng shui? I've studied it. Fei Lai was instantly energized. She started explaining what she'd learned from the books. This kind of hotel is haunted because the front door is facing north. Black tortoise is water, and the air is cold. The wind blows the cold air into the building, and it gathers. After a while, it becomes a land of Een. Fei Lai continued. Chen, bring me tomorrow night. I might be able to give you some pointers and change the layout slightly. That way, you can change the feng shui. Fei Lai, pregnant people can't go to that kind of place. You have to stay away from it. The cold air is quite harmful to people, especially pregnant women. Chen Zhao's words dispelled Fei Lai's thoughts. She was rather depressed. Chen Zhao didn't know feng shui, but he clearly didn't trust Fei Lai. Ever since Fei Lai got pregnant, she'd been learning Mandarin and feng shui. As long as she thought it was related to Chinese culture, she would learn it. Recently, she'd fallen in love with ink painting. She could already draw runes on a piece of flawless xian paper. She didn't have any teachers to guide her. She learned from videos on the internet and some books. It would be a miracle if she could learn anything. What made Qin Zhao speechless was that Fei Lai had collected all of her works. To put it nicely, each work was proof of her progress. If she became famous in the future, these paintings would be very valuable. Most of the time, Qin Zhao loved her. As long as Fei Lai liked it, he liked it too. But Qin Zhao really wanted to burn the works that insulted China's ink painting. Qin Zhao always felt that Fei Lai's ink painting had some kind of magic. It was a magic that people couldn't like. Qin Zhao had once tried to comfort himself by saying that those paintings were only the works of beginners. But after seeing Zherlin's decent works, Qin Zhao completely recognized the truth. Fei Lai really didn't have any artistic talent. Fei Lai's works only embodied 2/3 of the essence of ink painting. Moreover, Fei Lai was learning the most complicated category of ink painting, splash ink painting. Chapter 1131. The next day, Evely continued her training at Mirror Lake. Evely could clearly feel the cells in her body becoming active during the training. It was completely different from swimming in a pool. Even after swimming for 10,000 meters, her breathing was still very smooth. In the afternoon, after Evely left, Chen Zhao planned to go find Li Qing. Chen, if you encounter any problems with feng shui there, you can call me at any time. Chen Zhao could tell that Fei Lai really wanted to show off her feng shui knowledge. Chen Zhao wondered if he should create an opportunity for Fei Lai to do so. Of course, haunted hotels definitely wouldn't work. Even if the risk was small, Chen Zhao didn't want Fei Lai to come into contact with such an environment. After arriving at Ethan's hotel, Chen Zhao swaggered in. Ethan happened to be carrying a plate of freshly filled burgers. Seeing Chen Zhao, he took the plate and left. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes and took out a drink from the vending machine. Fuck, why do you have the key to the vending machine? Of course. Whatever you have, the key is in the counter. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes and took a burger from Ethan's plate. Did you know that I'd make a burger at this time? I'm not here for you today, Chen Zhao said. Who else are you here for? Do you have friends staying here? Auntie Li. Just then, Li Qing walked out. You're here for Li? Yes. Mr. Chen, please wait a moment. I need to finish my business, Li Qing said. It's early anyway. No rush, Chen Zhao said. Take your time. Chen, why are you here for Li? None of your business. Chen Zhao glanced at Ethan. You ate my food and stole my employee. Am I not allowed to ask? Chen Zhao slapped a check on Ethan's table. Can I do it now? Ethan picked up the check. It was $400,000. Pfft. I won't ask. Ethan smiled brightly. Ethan had a great time working with Chen Zhao. Logically speaking, Chen Zhao could have cancelled the collaboration long ago, or just reduced the commission. But Chen Zhao had never done that. He didn't even have the intention. He felt that it was Ethan who had helped him in his most difficult time. In the beginning, Ethan had only chosen her for his own benefit. But no matter what, Ethan did help him. When he first arrived in Los Angeles, he had no friends. He didn't even know what he should do. Ethan was also introducing the best clients to him. Emotions are strange things. You don't know when it happens. But by the time you realize it, it already exists naturally. Ethan would always share some information with him. After a while, Li Qing came out. Ethan was stunned when he saw Li Qing's attire. At this moment, Li Qing was dressed like a Taoist nun with a yellow crown on her head. Li Qing had worn the same outfit during the previous New Year. Then she set up an incense table in front of the door and danced there. A Taoist nun is also called a nun. In ancient times, women did not have crowns. Only female Taoists would have crowns, which was why they were called female crowns. Li, why are you wearing this today? Mr. Chen asked me to take care of something, so I'm wearing this. Can't normal clothes do? Or is there some magic in these clothes? No. I believe in Taoism. If I use Taoist spells, I have to wear traditional clothes to respect my teachings. You can also understand the reason why priests wear monk robes. Li Qing's Taoist robe didn't have any enchantments. It was just because she paid more attention to tradition. If she didn't use Taoist spells in a sudden situation, Li Qing would wear the Taoist robe and appear as a Taoist nun. Oh, what time will you be back tonight? I don't know. Okay. After saying goodbye to Ethan, Li Qing got into Chen Zhao's car. Mr. Chen, you seem to have completed ultimate transformation. Li Qing glanced at Chen Zhao. Her cultivation wasn't as high as Chen Zhao's, but Chen Zhao didn't have great control over his cultivation. Taoists also had the ability to see through people. Even if he faced someone with higher cultivation than him, he could still see through them if he didn't know how to hide it. Is it that obvious? Mr. Chen, there's a technique in Qingyi sect. You can take a look when you're free. Okay. Thank you, Auntie Li. Mr. Chen, in Taoism, ultimate transformation is the peak. Qingyi sect's techniques can only reach this level, but it's said that there's a Shang-Qing state. What's Shang-Qing state? Shang-Qing is heaven and earth, while Shang-Qing is emptiness. That's why it's also called emptiness of heaven and earth. This is recorded in some Taoist books, but I'm afraid I can't answer more than that. In ancient times, famous Taoists cultivated to ultimate transformation was already the peak. One would appear every few hundred years, but emptiness of heaven and earth was only recorded in books. No one had ever reached emptiness of heaven and earth. Chen Zhao had no idea. It seemed that he had to ask Old Turtle later. Perhaps Old Turtle could point out the path for his current level and his future. Many of the spells of the Qingyi sect were created by the founder of the Qingyi sect, Shangliu Qingyi. Shangliu Qingyi was an ultimate transformation expert, so these spells can only be used by ultimate transformation experts. Mr. Chen, why don't you study Qingyi's records? Chen Zhao nodded. Qingyi sect's books had indeed helped him a lot when he was growing up. Mr. Chen, where are we going now? Beverly Hills. My friend's house is there. He's taking us to his hotel personally. Chen Zhao said. I really don't understand. Why does he have to lead the way himself? He's so scared. There's a custom in the West, Li Qing said. If outsiders enter a new shop, the owner has to accompany them. When they arrived at Dell's house, Chen Zhao called him. A while later, Dell came out. Dell glanced at Chen Zhao and Li Qing from the car window. Chen, the lady you mentioned is the helper? You better be polite to her. She's an Eastern magician. Be careful, she might curse you. Dell immediately gave in. Okay, miss, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I can't fit in this car. I'll get a bigger one here. Chapter 1132. Chen Zhao and Li Qing arrived at the entrance of the hotel. When they saw the hotel, they couldn't help but gasp. So big. They both thought the same thing. The hotel was an arc-shaped building. It was estimated to be 50 stories high and 400 to 500 meters long. The scale of this hotel was very large, and there was a large green belt. Dell, how much did you and Risfar pay for this hotel? $230 million. Worth it. Qin Zhao said. The building before them probably cost more than $300 million. I don't understand the building's entrance. It faces the south, which is fire. Fire brings wealth. There are also palms blocking the door, so it's hard for customers to find the entrance, Li Qing said. Also, the building is curved and close to the coast. When the sea wind blows, it blocks the entire city's water flow and sends the water back into the sea. It's called bringing wealth to the door. Is the water flow good or bad? In feng shui, there is a saying of the 4 symbols and 8 trigrams. Every kind of weather attribute has its good and bad. This building coincides with the pattern of the 100 occupants Jiaotsang. The so-called 100 occupants Jiaotsang is like this building, with 100 eyes and 100 occupants. Each window is 100 occupants, but there is no finishing touch. Therefore, the flow of water takes away the fortune. If you can leave an occupant eye, you can form the finishing touch. The water will turn into a dragon, and the 100 occupants will return to 1. Qin, what are you talking about? I don't understand. You don't understand, Qin Zhao said. Looking at Li Qing, Qin Zhao said, Auntie Li, I heard that this place is haunted. That's normal. The wind comes and goes, so the owner of this place will have great ups and downs. It's not an auspicious sign. Humans have 7 orifices, so they have to face the ups and downs of life. The 100 acupuncture points are a place with many things. Luck comes but doesn't gather, but misfortune gathers but doesn't disperse. Now that everyone is gone, the building is weak and Yin is born. If it's left here for another year or so, this place will probably become a ghost town. Just then, a gust of Yin-chi rushed toward the car. Crack! The car window was covered in dense cracks, and they appeared in an instant. Frightened, Dell hurriedly escaped from the car. Qin Zhao and Li Qing also got off the car. Dell was scared out of his wits. Chen, let's not exorcise evil spirits anymore. Let's go. It's scary here. Li Qing raised his head to look at the sky. The bright moon hung high in the sky. Tonight's moon is too bright. The strength of the evil spirits entrenched in this place has also increased greatly. Sister Qing, are you confident? If it's just an evil spirit, there's nothing to be afraid of, Li Qing said. But looking at the Yin Qi, I'm afraid someone is doing something evil here. Sister Qing, are you saying that someone is purposely raising ghosts here? That's possible. Li Qing nodded. Mr. Chen, I'll go in and investigate first. You stay here for now. Okay. If you need anything, call me immediately, Qin Zhao said. Just as Li Qing was about to step into the hotel, a gust of cold wind blew towards him. The car behind him seemed to be attacked by some invisible force, and the cracked glass window instantly shattered. Chen, is this lady going in just like that? Are you sure it's okay? Dell's teeth were chattering. Dell had seen many horror movies, and in them, the same scene often appeared. It's okay. She's a professional. Qin Zhao and Dell watched as Li Qing disappeared into the hotel. Li Qing entered the hotel alone. However, the hotel was simply too big. It was a super hotel. Just the guest rooms alone numbered more than 2,000. There was also no electricity, so the elevator couldn't be used. Li Qing had to check each floor. Li Qing took out a stack of paper dolls and held them between her fingers. She exhaled on them and waved them lightly. The paper dolls turned into another Li Qing. This spell was called Qi Restoration. The Li Qing that the paper dolls turned into were all Li Qing's breath of air. There could be an unlimited number of them, as long as Li Qing had enough air. However, they couldn't fight at all. Li Qing waited where she was. The clones spread out in all directions. Furthermore, these clones were extremely light. They were able to do things that Li Qing could not do on her own. Because they weren't real, they were just pieces of paper that had a breath of air, so they were very light. At the same time, Dell and Qin Zhao, who were standing outside the hotel, saw countless figures floating up the outer wall of the hotel. That's... Dell exclaimed. What are those? Qin Zhao's eyes were better, so he could see more clearly. They seemed to be Li Qing, but judging from the number, Qin Zhao guessed that Li Qing had used some kind of cloning spell. Dell had never seen such silence before. He immediately took out his phone to take pictures. Li Qing suddenly felt that one of the clones had been destroyed. At the same time, she sensed where it had been destroyed. This wasn't Li Qing's home ground, but she used this spell to turn the entire hotel into her home ground. Everything was under her control. Those clones were her eyes and her senses. No matter what monsters were hiding here, they couldn't escape her eyes. Taoist had the heavenly eye spell. Li Qing's spell couldn't see everything in the world, but the building could. Li Qing found the floor where the incident had taken place and saw a malicious spirit attacking her doppelganger. The ghost couldn't tell if it was the real one or the clone. When it saw Li Qing's real body, it thought that it would be defeated like the previous clones, so it attacked Li Qing without saying anything. Li Qing pointed with 2 fingers at the malicious ghost's forehead. Master, save me! Chen, do you think that lady is really okay? Dell asked, feeling uneasy. She's fine, Qin Zhao said calmly. She's strong. Just then, Dell suddenly saw a woman in white standing under a streetlight in the distance. But the streetlight kept flashing, alternating between light and darkness. Chen! You! Look! That woman! Qin Zhao also saw the woman in white. He frowned. The woman had an ominous aura. The woman in white walked towards them barefoot. Every streetlight she passed, the one above her would flash. Chen! When the woman was less than 10 meters away from Qin Zhao and Dell, she suddenly stopped. Suddenly, the streetlights on both sides fell down without warning, pressing down on Qin Zhao and Dell. Qin Zhao was shocked. He hurriedly pressed Dell to the ground. What kind of spell did the woman use? A spell that could control metal? Just then, the parked car suddenly flew into the air. Chapter 1133. Qin Zhao pulled Dell away. Looking down, he saw that Dell was wet. The woman in white looked at Qin Zhao in surprise. Because Qin Zhao wasn't afraid at all. Just then, the fallen lamppost suddenly twisted and swept toward Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao pulled Dell away again. The woman in white also frowned. Because Qin Zhao dodged her attacks again and again. Dell, move away! Qin Zhao pushed Dell away. Qin Zhao was ready to kill. But just then, a voice rang out. Stop, wait! Don't do anything! Rupert ran out from the darkness. Stop, don't do anything! Rupert, perfect timing, the woman said. Help me go in and take a look. The little ghost I'm raising is being attacked. Rupert looked at Qin Zhao with a troubled expression. Qin, it's a misunderstanding. Rupert, do you know him? Fei Sha was surprised. Fei Sha, if you attack again, he'll kill you. Him? Fei Sha sneered, her face full of disdain. In her eyes, Qin Zhao was at most a wizard. In the past, wizards had always existed as servants of witches. Dell was still in shock. He didn't understand the situation. But it seemed that Qin Zhao knew the girl who'd suddenly appeared, and the girl knew the woman in white. Rupert, go away! Qin Zhao snorted coldly. Qin, it's a misunderstanding. She wants to kill me and my friend. It's not a misunderstanding anymore, Qin Zhao said. Rupert, you don't have to do anything here. If you don't want to help me, then go away. Fei Sha was also determined. But Rupert still blocked the two. Shen, I apologize on behalf of Fei Sha. No need to apologize, Qin Zhao said calmly. I just want to kill her now. If you can kill me, then come at me. Suddenly, Dell's car crashed toward Qin Zhao without any warning. Qin, watch out! Dell exclaimed. Qin Zhao was about to be hit by the car, but he blocked it with one hand. Fei Sha's pupils contracted. But the next moment, Qin Zhao suddenly closed in on her. So fast. Fei Sha watched as Qin Zhao approached, but she didn't even have time to react. Suddenly, a wall of light appeared in front of Fei Sha. Qin Zhao's fist smashed into the light wall, and it shattered instantly. But in that split second, an old witch appeared behind Fei Sha and grabbed her by the back of her collar. Then, she disappeared. Chen Zhao looked around in confusion. Escaped? Rupert, stop right there! Chen Zhao turned to look at Rupert, who was planning to escape. Rupert turned her head awkwardly to look at Chen Zhao. She forced out a smile. Hi, Chen, long time no see. That woman just now, and the old witch who appeared later, who are they? Where did they go? That? I don't know them well. Rupert shrugged and spread her hands. Chen Zhao narrowed his eyes at Rupert. Don't think that I won't do anything to you just because I know Sienna. I might not kill you, but I'll make you want to die even more. Chen, even if I tell you where they are, you can't do anything to them, Rupert said. They're witches from the British Witch Club, especially Lady Cybora who appeared later. She's the top witch in Britain and the only witch in the world who can transmit magic. No one can catch her. At this moment, Li Qing walked out from inside. When she saw the mess outside, she couldn't help but be stunned. Mr. Chen, what happened here? Is it all cleaned up? Yes, they've all been cleaned up. Someone has kept more than 10 malicious ghosts inside. Chen Zhao turned to Rupert. Tell me, what happened? Actually, Fei Sha didn't mean any harm, Rupert said. She just saw that this place was empty and suitable for raising ghosts, so she raised some evil spirits. Where are they now? Chen, I really can't tell you. You can't, right? I'll make you tell me. Chen Zhao picked up Rupert and said to Del. Del, we're done here. We'll go now. Wait. Chen, what happened just now was real, right? Del asked after Chen Zhao. If you think it's real, then it's real. If you think it's fake, then it's fake. Don't play dumb with me. I need you to answer my question directly. You saw it. Why do you still ask? Chen, you're a wizard too, right? And this lady too? And this little girl? Who are you calling little girl? Do you think I won't curse you? Rupert glared at Del. Ouch. Chen, don't hit my head. Del, you don't have to get involved. She won't curse you either. Go home. How do you want me to go home? Don't you have bodyguards? Have them drive a car over. What about you? It's none of your business. Fuck off. Don't. Let me follow you. Del was very interested. Do you want to see me torture a little girl, break her limbs, dig out her eyes, and soak her in acid? Chen, you definitely won't do that to me. I'm only 10. Chen Zhao wouldn't really do anything to Rupert. He took out his phone and called Sienna. Sienna, Rupert's beside me now. You want to call Sienna? Don't call her. No, I don't want to see her. Chen Zhao didn't care. He just waited where he was. 20 minutes later, Sienna arrived. When she saw the person beside Chen Zhao, she was stunned. Chen, did Rupert cause trouble? I was attacked by a witch from the United Kingdom, but she was rescued by another witch called Cybora. Sienna looked at Rupert. Rupert, Ms. Cybora is already in LA? Humph. Rupert turned her head, ignoring Sienna. I don't want to talk to you. Sienna, are you in trouble? Chen Zhao asked. Nothing. Sienna smiled. Rupert, let's go. I don't want to go with you. Sienna looked at Chen Zhao helplessly. Chen, since Rupert doesn't want to go with me, help me watch her. Don't let her escape again. Last time, Rupert stayed at Chen Zhao's house for 2 days and then left without a word. Sienna, I can't watch her. Unless Chen Zhao locked Rupert up, he couldn't watch her at all. He couldn't stay by Rupert's side all the time either. Chapter 1134. Sienna wasn't angry at Rupert. She really wanted to lock Rupert up. However, she couldn't do it herself. So, she decided to let Chen Zhao take her place as the bad guy. With that, Sienna got into the car. Just then, Chris poked her head out. Chen, we're leaving. Goodbye. Mr. Chen, I'm leaving too. Auntie Lee, wait. Del's car will be here soon. No need. Running at night is good for your body, Li Qing said. Come here. I want to talk to you. Chen Zhao glanced at Rupert. Stand here. If you run, I'll break your legs. With that, Chen Zhao and Li Qing went to a corner. Auntie Li, what do you want to talk about? That girl seems to be a meat cauldron. What's a meat cauldron? It's also called a cauldron in our country. Li Qing glanced at Rupert in the distance. I don't understand, Chen Zhao said, confused. When you encounter some powerful monsters or demons, you use magic to separate the demon's body and soul and seal them into newborns. You mean there's a part of a demon sealed in Rupert's body? Chen Zhao asked, surprised. Maybe, but I don't know if it's true. I just feel like there's something in her body. Also, the Sibylla you just mentioned. 20 years ago, she was part of the British witch delegation and came to our country for an exchange. That's why I've seen her before. She seemed to be here to exchange spells, but she was actually here to seek help from some sects in our country. She wanted to see how our country handles powerful demons. So did she find it? Sort of. It's this meat cauldron spell. Li Qing glanced at Rupert again. Auntie Li, have you seen this girl before? We met more than 20 years ago at that exchange meeting. She must have slept for more than 20 years. Auntie Li, do you need me to help her? Chen Zhao asked. Chen Zhao felt that Li Qing was looking at Rupert differently. She has an excellent spiritual mirror constitution. She's perfect for cultivating Qingyi spells. But she's a foreigner. Now I'm the only one left in the Green Robe sect. You're considered half a member. If we continue to remain stubborn, I'm afraid that the Green Robe sect won't be far from extinction. Furthermore, with the exchange between the spiritual world and the outside world, some ancient sects have already begun to open branches in various countries or directly recruit foreign disciples. If the Green Robe sect doesn't keep up with the times, we'll be eliminated by the times sooner or later. Chen Zhao didn't expect Li Qing's idea to be so modern. Okay, I'll think of something, Chen Zhao said. Li Qing had helped him a lot, and they had a good relationship. Moreover, Li Qing had taught Chen Zhao before, so he was willing to help her. This is my suggestion for your friend's hotel. Li Qing took out a piece of paper and handed it to Chen Zhao. I'll be leaving now. Sister Qing, be careful on the road. Yes. Li Qing took 2 steps and stopped. She turned back and said, If the thing in the girl's body wants to come out, extract it directly. Don't wait for it to grow stronger. The girl can't take it anymore, and it will harm her life. Okay, got it, Chen Zhao answered. This time, Li Qing really left. Chen Zhao returned to Rupert and Dell. What's sealed in your body? Chen Zhao asked directly. He didn't beat around the bush. Rupert looked up at Chen Zhao. You know? Tell me directly. I think I have a way to help you. You can't. 1/3 of a big demon's soul is sealed in my body. This demon can't be destroyed. Chen Zhao rubbed his forehead. To him, the biggest problem wasn't how to destroy the demon's soul, but how to pull it out of Rupert's body without harming Rupert. Chen, can you give me the contact information of that lady from China? Dell asked. What do you want? Chen Zhao looked at Dell suspiciously. From Dell's past misdeeds, it was hard for Chen Zhao not to be suspicious of his intentions. I want to hire her to be my hotel's security consultant. She won't agree, Chen Zhao said. Li Qing was too sentimental. She was also the kind of person who would repay favors with a spring. Ethan had taken her in, so she wouldn't go anywhere now. She was only willing to stay in the hotel and help Ethan. What if we encounter similar things in the future? You're so stupid. Since you're so close to Chen, why don't you go to him directly? He's the strongest spiritualist in LA. There's nothing he can't solve. Dell looked at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao immediately said, Don't come to me for this kind of small trouble. Sienna takes this kind of thing. I'll give you her contact information, but it depends on her time. She's the security consultant for the power company now, so if you encounter similar things, you can only wait until she's free. Chen, I think the China lady is more reliable. This is Sister Qing's suggestion for your hotel. As long as you follow her suggestion, this kind of thing will basically not happen in your hotel anymore. But don't you China people have a saying? It's better to be safe than sorry. You're so troublesome, Qin Zhao said in annoyance. Actually, if Dell encountered something supernatural, he could just call Qin Zhao and Qin Zhao would definitely come to help. Just give me Ms. Li's number. I told you that she won't be your security consultant. No. Qin Zhao shook his head. Li Qing was different from Sienna. Giving Sienna's number to Dell was to introduce Sienna to a client. But Li Qing wasn't in this line of work. If Qin Zhao hadn't asked for her help, she wouldn't have come. Chen, why are you like this? I told you to call this number if you're in trouble. Ms. Sienna is also a professional spiritualist. But I want to find the China lady. What exactly do you want? Dell's face reddened. After a while he said, I want her to be my teacher. What? Qin Zhao's eyes widened. Are you crazy? No, I'm serious. Dell looked at Qin Zhao seriously. After taking a photo with his phone, he could tell that the figures were all Li Qing. In his eyes, Li Qing was definitely a godlike person. He even felt that Qin Zhao was Li Qing's junior. That was why he wanted to be her disciple. Do you know what it means to be a China disciple? What does it mean? There's a saying in China that a teacher for a day is a father for life. Ms. Li's children are all dead, so you have to be filial to her like a son. You even have to take care of her when she dies. You're tuning into the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.